to our podcast. And this is the first time that we are going to have an international guest on our podcast. So, without any further ado, Tushar, welcome to our podcast and start by introducing yourself.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Tushar. I'm 24 years old. I live in California in America,
Hmm.
and I'm a software engineer. I've been a software engineer for 2 years. And I mean, some of my hobbies, we'll talk about more about my hobbies later, but some of the things that I do are,
Voice echo. ऐसे एक बार voice का बता दो यार, voice का क्या issue आ रहा है and everything, so that we can tackle that.
yeah,
So,
yeah, just quick hobbies, sports, surfing, music. I love music as well, movies.
तो तुषार हमें अपने बारे में बहुत कुछ बताने वाला है एंड विद द हेल्प ऑफ दिस पॉडकास्ट आई थिंक पीपल राइट देयर दे विल हेल्प दिस पॉडकास्ट विल हेल्प फॉर देम टू नो यू बेटर and voice is fine. Okay, so voice is fine, and there's 7 people who are already viewing us, and it's a great number. That doesn't happen generally. Okay, so starting with Tushar, this is how you give your introduction. Okay, this was more of a formal introduction that you're used to giving. Okay, now give an introduction, a very podcast introduction that you have to give. So now you have to give an introduction that's very what you can say. Uh, it's more friendly with people. So how will you introduce yourself to people so that they accept you or they know the real Tushar?
I think for me, like this whole podcast will get to know me a bit more, more about my background, more about जो मैं काम करता हूँ ये सब. So we'll dive deep more into my education, what I like to do.
Signal. I guess it's fine. What should a person from Decris do to get a job in US?
Acha,
Okay, by the way,
question.
Decris is the university where I'm studying. Okay, you know
पता है,
that.
हाँ.
The guy who's written this, who's asking this, he was a guest in our last episode of the podcast. His name is Anshul Bhaiya, and he's always present in all our episodes. So shout out to Anshul Bhaiya. And यार जो भी लोग देख रहे हैं अब तक 8 लोग देख रहे हैं इसको बाकियों के साथ शेयर करो. And जो नए लोग हैं वही सेम बात है यार, जो नए लोग हैं चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दो. And make sure to hit that like button also. Tushar, that's a thing that we do on a show. जो भी हमारा special guest आता है, हम एक बार उनसे बोलते हैं that they should pitch for our channel and like, share and subscribe. So I want you to say that for our channel, please.
So I mean, like, share, subscribe. Everybody says it. I think it's like a full circle moment for everyone to say like, share, and subscribe on YouTube.
Right.
But seriously, like I think like a lot
just
of
move a little bit.
yeah, a lot of these content
fine.
creators, काफी मुश्किल है काम करना, content creator करना, audience के साथ जेल करना और ये सब करना है तो ये difficult काम है और curating content बनाना
Okay, we'll come to this question also lately, but तुषार बोल रहा है यार अब प्लीज आप जितने भी लोग देख रहे हो 4 likes हैं. We've got 8 people who are viewing us live, but it's only 4 people who have liked it. So बचे हुए 4 लोग भी भाई like कर दो and share it with other people also. And as I've told it before, that's how the algorithm works. That's how your video is shared with multiple people and it's more suggested. Okay. So यार तुषार सब कुछ बताएगा, अपनी वर्क प्रोफाइल भी बताएगा एंड हिज वर्क एक्सपीरियंस एंड इससे पहले कहाँ काम किया है, how was his college life, how was his time in school, high school, and that was something that we were discussing, pre-podcast also. But
we'll also dive deep more into other things.
Yeah, that's just increasing the depth of the same things that we have discussed. And बहुत सारी चीजें होंगी यार इस पूरे पॉडकास्ट में आज डिस्कस. तो भाई लाइक कर दो यार, अभी 12 लोग हमें देख रहे हैं एंड only 5 likes. So प्लीज यार लाइक कर दो. एंड okay, so there's 6 like, एक like बढ़ गया. Okay, coming to the question that Anshul Bhai has asked, ki what should a person from Decris do to get a job in US? What do you have to say on this?
Yeah, so for me it was कोई अलग experience था.
Acha, he wrote this and bro is explaining the recommendation system to an AI engineer.
Algorithm बता रहे हो.
He's saying that an AI engineer already knows that.
Recommendation के system को जानता है.
Okay, हाँ, you were saying that.
हाँ, तो ये होता है कि अमेरिका में तो काफी आसान है जॉब लगना जब वहां से पढ़ाई करते हो, क्योंकि वहाँ कॉलेज जाते हो और जब कॉलेज जाते हो तो कॉलेज के साथ ये कंपनीज प्लेसमेंट हो जाता है। देखिए मैंने फिर भी मैंने अमेज़न में काम किया 2 साल के लिए।
Guys, the ones who do not know, he is an ex-Amazon software engineer, and now he's working in Nvidia. I mean, he's about to start.
अभी शुरू करूंगा।
Can you give a brief of that to the audience?
हाँ, तो so I graduated college in 2022. And I worked in Amazon as an intern as well in 2021. And I worked in the same company, same organization, graduation ke baad. So 2.5 years. So basically, like, for me, it was quite simple because going through the US education system, colleges have these tie-ups. लेकिन वो जो decrust के लिए तो ऐसे बताता हूँ कि ज़्यादा मेरे दोस्त वहाँ हैं जो काम करते हैं AI और ML में और ये कंपनीज में काम करते हैं, वो मास्टर्स करते हैं US की कॉलेज से। तो बैचलर्स US में करते हो और US में मास्टर्स करते हो और US की मास्टर्स के बाद नौकरी लगती है US पे।
US itself. Okay.
ऐसे भी लगता है बैचलर्स के बाद, लेकिन ज्यादा chances है मास्टर्स
But if
के बाद।
somebody has done his or her bachelor from India itself, from let's say not that reputed college, for that person, I mean, what's the kind of roadmap that you would like to frame?
Yeah, so the chances are still high for you to get into it. You can also, for these top companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, you can get a job posting in India itself, right? And then once you're in the company, so coming to the US is not as difficult as it is when you're just applying to a job in the US. देखिए आप LinkedIn में apply करो और location देखो कैलिफोर्निया, तो ज़्यादा मुश्किल हो जाएगा क्योंकि आप ज़्यादा applicants से compete कर रहे हो।
True.
तो जब you apply in your company in your area और आ सकता है ऑफर लेटर आता है, तो now you're in the company, तो अब आसान हो जाता है US का जॉब लाना इसलिए। और लेकिन मास्टर्स कर सकते हो, देखिए US को कॉलेज को अप्लाई करो और मास्टर्स करो और फिर जाओ मास्टर्स के लिए और फिर नौकरी ठीक लग जाएगी।
So masters is the only option if you want.
Masters is there, but also company.
Okay.
Company you apply from here, तो ज़्यादा chances हो जाएंगे।
अच्छा।
From here, location
so
here.
There's no
and
issue
then
of
transfer.
Okay, so there's no issue of I don't get companies on campus, so you can reach out to them.
Yeah, mostly experience. You have the experience. कोई कंपनी में अमेरिका में इंडिया में कोई फर्क नहीं है, लेकिन एक्सपीरियंस आता है, एक्सपीरियंस आ जाता है, तो एक्सपीरियंस के बाद यहाँ सब जा सकते हो।
Okay, let us address some of the comments that people have written. Somebody is writing, sir, I'm confused between CP and DSA, competitive programming and DSA. Okay, so what do you have to say on that? Because all these are your juniors basically, as I said. And the guys, आपको एक चीज बताना चाहता हूँ, the ones who do not know, he's my cousin. He's my like first cousin, we can say.
First cousin, yeah.
Right. He's my first cousin, and he's my mom's side, and I'm his dad's side. So I just got to know that he's coming to India, and I thought it's a great opportunity for my juniors, for my audience to actually know. And when I got to know that he works in the AI field and the AI thing, I thought it would be great. It would be great for my audience, and it would be a great interaction for him as well.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be on this podcast. I'm excited to help you guys in whatever way I can.
I mean, he was elated the moment I told you that you're going to be on the podcast.
Yeah, I've seen some of the podcast episodes. I've seen some people come on and explain their background, and I've learned from them. So I'm excited to also, whatever I can give to you guys, I'm excited to give any knowledge I can impart.
I mean, that's the best thing. Okay, so what would you say to a guy who's confused between CP and DSA?
It's a competitive programming and DSA.
I mean, as far as I understand, this person is not able to dodge between the two.
Class में या अलग?
I mean, अलग से, if that person wants to say.
well जॉब नौकरी के लिए डीएसए करना पड़ेगा और फोकस करना पड़ेगा डीएसए पर कंपैरेटिव प्रोग्रामिंग तो काफी काफी कंपैरेटिव प्रोग्रामिंग एटलीस्ट कॉर्पोरेट में लिए नहीं चाहिए.
You can speak in English if
Yeah.
you can be comfortable.
Corporate programming is, I mean, sorry, not corporate okay. Yeah, CP is not really prioritized, more so DSA is looked into, and when you're
Okay.
interviewing, DSA is a more important
So
skill.
you would suggest a person who is trying to toggle between DSA and CP, you would suggest that you
Go
can
towards the DSA
okay, DSA part.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be first thing.
unless
Mhm.
you are, you know, an amazing programmer with, you know, have a
The
very
other
big
part
talent.
overpowers.
Yeah, or you
Okay.
have a really big talent for programming, and
Mhm.
you have the ability to potentially, you know, have a startup or
Increase it.
some idea in mind, then yes. But for most people, the best option is DSA.
Okay. Okay, this guy is asking, भाई front end के लिए क्या करूँ? Please बता दो. So
Okay.
you have to suggest for front end. The guy is asking specifically for front end. What you got to suggest this person?
फ्रंट एंड के लिए तो मैं ज़्यादा फ्रंट एंड नहीं करता हूँ. मेरा काम एआई में है, तो मैं ज़्यादा
Okay, so Tushar is also going to tell his job role and explain it in you know
yeah,
few
मैं बताता हूँ अभी.
Right, later in the podcast he's going to tell guys, मतलब जितने भी आपके doubts हैं वो तो live resolve हो ही रहे होंगे, लेकिन साथ ही साथ he's going to tell his journey. I mean, as I said, he's going to tell what were his aspirations as a student, as a college student, how did he reach out to Amazon, and what are his current future aspirations. Everything is going to be discussed. There's only one thing that we require कि आप लोग यार एक बार like कर दो, subscribe कर दो, the usual thing that we say. क्योंकि that's the way how we can create more such podcasts. We can have more such guests. Of course, you are not exactly a guest, not a formal guest.
Yeah.
But we can have more such podcast once we get that support.
Definitely.
Okay, this guy, he's Aviral, he's my friend. He's been there on the podcast. Okay.
Location and clothes.
Location and clothes and location and clothes both changed. Nice progress. Okay. Because the usual podcast.
Your mom was saying she didn't like the clothes, remember? Earlier?
I remember. She was saying that she didn't like, but that's how things work. You know, the world outside is often appreciating you.
Yeah.
That's the contrast. Okay, so Aviral was a guest in one of our podcasts that he was showing me that this was the first podcast. I said no. So he was a guest.
First, college में.
Until we is writing मामा बुआ का लड़का best जोड़ी. हाँ यार, he's my मामा का लड़का and I'm his बुआ का लड़का. Okay. Dheeraj bhai,
in the US it's a little bit more private, you know.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be private. Okay. So Dheeraj Badmosh aa jayega. Okay. So Tushar, starting with, you have to explain what's your job role and explain it in some way. First of all, you have to explain what's your job role, and then later we'll jump on to different things. So can you start with? Of course, मुझे तो पता है, but the audience out there, your juniors especially.
Yeah, so I previously worked at Amazon as a software engineer focusing on AI machine learning chips. So Amazon has their own custom kind of hardware that they use to train these large language models. Like, I'm sure you've heard of like ChatGPT and other models like Copilot and GitHub Copilot,
Gemini,
different Code Whisperer,
right,
and Gemini, and all these
Perplexity,
agents, these kind of agents that
right,
are created. So all these are using some type of compute or some type of engine to kind of serve these inference requests, or for training, for actually training these models. All these models go through a set of training where they're provided all this data from all over the internet, and then that model, which is a dummy model, is trained on all that data. And different model architectures exist. Like there's a Llama architecture, GPT architecture. All these architectures exist. So the actual compute that this hardware is done on, Amazon has their own version of it. Usually it's done on GPUs, which are which Nvidia offers, because Nvidia has something called CUDA. CUDA is like this parallel programming processor, but Amazon has their own version of this custom machine learning chip. So I was working on the software stack of that custom machine learning chip, and my responsibility mostly dealt with like the deployment and automation, as well as DevOps, CI/CD kind of releases, and all these things related to the deployment of the software.
Okay.
As well as, you know, creating these large scale clusters and large scale deployments to do like training across 32 chips or 64 chips in data centers. Data centers I can also talk about. It's more of like a cloud computing concept. I'm sure you guys will cover it eventually in one of your courses. I don't know what the name is. It's probably some like programming course. Distributed systems, yeah. And if you take distributed systems, you'll discuss kind of cloud computing and how these kind of things work. And you'll understand that in cloud computing, we have these chips that hosted in data centers, and they have these high levels of interconnect. So you can connect multiple chips and access multiple cores at once. So then you can do something called distributed training or distributed inference, where you can do training not just on one chip, but on like 64 or like 2,000 chips at once. And it's all done in parallel. So that's kind of the job and the role that I've been working on in the past 2 years. Yeah. And then how I got into this role, well, in college, I had some AI ML experience.
I remember meeting you back in 2019, and that's when you told me that you're working in suggestive AI. And for a guy who's in 10th standard, and I had no correlation with AI and everything, but I got to know that you're AI centric and you're looking forward to AI as a future.
Yeah.
So you're looking forward to AI even before.
So yeah,
this boom came
in 2019. AI was sort of a.
So somebody is writing this. Wish you all the best for your channel. The conversation looks good. I have joined from United States. Was researching in Nvidia Jetson Urin Nano Developer Kit. Somehow reached here. It works in AI. Do you know who is Avdesh Chauhan?
Nvidia is a big company. If he works in Nvidia.
I thought if he's one of your friends.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
And then someone else said by admission cubs to start.
Okay, he's asking for admission of, I guess, decreased, I guess. Okay, I think if you're asking specifically for decreased, भाई अभी तो time है बहुत, because अभी तो आपके exams भी नहीं हुए, entrance exam, उसके बाद ही सारी चीजें होती हैं. And if it's just comment from somebody who's catfishing or something, so that doesn't matter. Okay, so that's how you explain your role.
In 2019, yeah. So we were talking about 2019.
Yeah,
right?
suggestive AI.
So the way that it happened was, at that time, a lot of research was happening in AI. So AI has been a thing in the US, and honestly, it's been a thing in India as well for a few years. It's not just in 2022.
Sir, how long have you been working abroad? Your accent has completely changed from an Indian one. Just asking out of curiosity. I mean, there's been a lot of question regarding your accent. It's not just the number of people who've written, but people might be thinking that just working a couple of years can change your accent. So just tell them about your upbringing and something.
Yeah. So let me do the upbringing part first. Right. So I was born in India, and I lived in India for a month, and then I moved to America. I came back and forth for maybe 2 years, but then we officially settled in America, and I've been living in America for about 20 years.
More than 2 decades.
Yeah, 2 decades almost. So yeah, it makes sense that my accent has completely changed.
And even before the podcast, he was thinking like this, that okay, will my accent be accessible to people? Will people be able to interpret what I'm saying and everything? I just said that okay, don't worry, everybody will be there, and I just tried to comfort him, and he was generous enough to understand what I was saying.
Yeah, so it is what it is. It's been quite a few years since then, but yeah. So I've mostly studied in the U.S. Everything has been education and college all through the US. I've only come to India for trips at this point, visiting all my cousins and stuff. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is how you told your role. Tell them that how right now you're about to join Nvidia and you've left Amazon, and the things that you're not getting leaves in Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of Amazon. I left Amazon because honestly, I wanted to grow.
See, the people are agreeing with this guy who asked you about your accent. Somebody is tagging that guy and is writing real. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were telling about Amazon.
Yeah, so I decided to leave Amazon after 2 years, mostly for growth. I was looking for more opportunities for me to grow, and working for that company was.
And you were working in Amazon for how long?
about 2 to 3 years.
Mm.
Yeah, working for that company was great. I definitely learned a lot from them.
Right.
But I just decided it
It
was time
played
to
a role
move
in
on.
your growth.
Yeah,
Okay.
it played a role in my growth, and it was good. But yeah, it was time to move on. I wanted to, I don't know if most people know, but Amazon has a 5-day return to office policy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to do that, so that
Not
was one.
spilling the beans enough that
Yeah,
it can go against you.
yeah. You never know, right?
You never know.
Because
I mean, that's how people put it, articulate it, that I was doing it for my growth, my personal growth.
there were a lot of things that happened in that company at that time. So yeah, I just keep it under
Okay.
wraps.
So when are you joining Nvidia by now?
I'm starting Jan 6th.
Okay.
So next year.
So, okay, now I want to ask that how was Tushar as a student? And it's not just the kind of Q&A that we're going to have. I just want this thing to be very fair that the podcast that we do for the guys यार आप जिन लोगों ने हमारे बाकी podcast नहीं देखे हैं you can go on our channel. There's a separate playlist called podcast जहाँ पे जितने भी हमने podcast करे हैं with our friends and मतलब एक तरीके से जितने भी आए हैं सब friendship में ही आए हैं एक तरीके से uh, because it's not well established yet. It's just कि मेरे एक YouTube के medium से there are so many people who can get that set of information. So if you haven't checked our podcast, एक बार जाके देख लो यार. And uh, we've had great people on our podcast, and it's just great people and great interaction and great everything is great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've enjoyed watching your videos on the podcast and learning more. I'll go a little bit more into how I was as a student.
Right.
So obviously, I studied through the American Institute. So in high school, from 9 to 12, I was mostly like,
अक्षत भाई ऐसा भैया के पैकेज कितना है यार पैकेज की भी बात करेंगे एंड पैकेज की बात करेंगे दैट विल बी कंसिडर्ड लेटली इन द पॉडकास्ट बट जैसे होता है ना कोई मूवी की कहानी होती है you can directly jump onto the climax. You were talking about climax and build up right now, so you
okay,
can
so 15 views. Okay.
no 15 people are viewing right now live. Those are the concurrent viewers that are viewing you right now. These are the number of people who have showed up on a video on a live chat. हाँ तो कार्तिक भाई पैकेज वगैरह सबकी बात होगी. All these things will be discussed, and as I said that I don't want to keep it as a Q&A session where it's a controversial interview where I'm asking controversial questions just to get that clickbait. It's not like this. It's just the conversation where you'll tell your story, I'll tell my story, and just from our set of stories, people who are watching us can learn something or can extract something, can encapsulate something. It's just a normal conversation. You're going to tell your story, how are you as a student. It's just how it'll go. Okay, so you're telling something.
Yeah, so as a student, I was a pretty good student, I would say. In the US, we have these things called the SAT and grades and
okay, Tushar. Before that, can you please explain everybody to that what's SAT?
Yeah,
because to me, somebody who actually knows, that's a different thing. But to someone who doesn't know anything about SAT, can you explain to everyone?
Yeah, so the SAT is like just a standardized test that everybody takes in high school, which is just testing general high school knowledge, including high school English, high school grammar, high school math. And it's a version of standardized testing. So you have the SAT, you have the ACT. You can take either test, but what colleges use these tests for is just a kind of a measure of how good you would do in those schools. So like it's not actually going to place you in these schools. Like in India, what happens is like you take one test and that places you in an according school and an according rank. Here, what happens is your SAT can indicate what school you'll go to, but it does not necessarily mean that that's the grouping of schools you'll go to, because they factor.
So it's not a direct thing.
Yeah, because they factor grades, they factor extracurriculars, sports, and they factor all these things. So students there are typically all rounders. So I was an all rounder student. I was good in sports, I was good in clubs, leadership, grades. I was pretty good, and then SAT I did well. So all of these things rounded together helped me get admission into a good engineering school. And then once I got into a good engineering school, I got into a good uh, place to work. So
Mm.
that's kind of how it all happened, being in the good engineering school at that point. So I went to California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo. Long name, but if you want to look it up, it's just Cal Poly Slow. And it's a good engineering school. It's one of the highly rated engineering schools, and a lot of companies hire from this school. So
Okay.
I was able to get good admission from other companies into this school
Right.
from my background.
Right.
And in college, college life is I'm
And how
sure.
was it transient for you? How was school life and college life different? Did you stumble upon any sort of change in yourself?
Yeah, in high school, I felt like, I was very like kind of private and isolated from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I only sticked with the friend groups that I was like interested in sticking with, or not
Right.
interested, but like I wanted to be friends with a lot of people. And
Mm.
I was naive. And you just want to make friends with anyone to feel included. In America, life feels very isolated, and you feel very disconnected from people.
And you don't want to be isolated.
You don't want to be. You have that feeling and urge, especially like, most people, they want to have friends and meet people and socialize and hang out and do things. Not some people are there who are also, very introverted, and they like spending time with themselves, but some people are extroverted and want to spend time with other people. So
Okay.
I was more of that type of person. And then in high school, I was naive, made a lot of friends, and my at that point, I was a teenager, so a lot of things affected me more so than they should have,
Okay.
because at
I
that
mean,
age,
what in exactly specific?
like, confidence,
Hmm.
kind of the way you carry yourself, the way you think of
I think
yourself.
confidence.
Yeah,
That really
confidence.
sums up many things, because I think many things do come because of your confidence,
Yeah.
and especially at that age when your confidence is something that is very fragile and it is very shaky.
Mm.
It is something that's becoming, and uh, it's just in the building stage. It's the foundation thing. That was the thing that up till eighth, up till I would say 10th standard, I was very underconfident.
Yeah.
And as I was telling you,
Yeah. Back.
off camera, that up till 8th standard, I was just figuring this thing out, that what am I good at? I'm just average or below average in studies, and uh, not so good in sports. But what is something that's my peace point?
Mm.
I was just trying to figure this thing out, and while figuring all this thing, I guess 13, 14 years passed. By the time I was in eighth, during that time itself, I figured this thing out. Okay, I am good at this. I am able to entertain people, and people are actually responding. They are getting affected. They are reacting to this what I'm doing, and if I'm singing and I'm doing some sort of dramatics, people are there. People are doing some sort of activity. After that, I think that I was talking, that why you need a why. After that, from ninth standard up till my schooling, singing and acting, these were the things that kept me
It's
going.
the creative things that
Creative thing
make
that
you.
kept me going.
Yeah.
You remember the last time we met in 2022?
And you had just done like some singing
Right.
competition,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was the Haryana state that I was discussing with you.
Yeah,
State level.
you were in a band, right? Like
Yeah,
there
I
was
was
a
in a
full
choir.
band. Yeah.
I was in a choir where
Choir.
we won Haryana state level. But I won't say that I don't boast it that much, because again, people would find me very modest or something. But I feel that it just doesn't come naturally to me. I feel of being more grounded. I feel that's from where the humility part comes.
Mm.
And I think after that, ever since my ninth standard, eighth standard, it was just the creative thing that was helping me to get attached to academics.
Mm.
Before that, I was just figuring this thing out, that what am I good at.
Yeah.
Once I got to know, I thought, okay, I will pursue this thing, and that's the driving force that helping me study.
Mm.
So
Yeah, so I think it's very similar. Like a lot of kids, especially at that age, they don't nobody has interest in studies.
mm,
Like I feel like it's very hard to just be very passionate about studies. You always
right,
have to find that one thing that makes you really passionate about life. So like, you've mentioned choir, singing, and kind of
dramatics.
dramatics. Yeah, theater. You were very good at theater. You still are. Your reels on theater are amazing. But like you have to find that
By the
thing
way,
that you
guys, he
see.
hasn't been said to say these things.
No, I actually mean it. Yeah, yeah.
Just clarify this thing. The fact that I've said you are my first cousin,
Yeah,
people will think
the people will think,
it's
but
staged.
no,
It's not staged.
I'm being serious. You know, he has some amazing videos on his channel. I'll say this too. He's not been making videos,
Ah.
so I'm also being critical of it.
Yeah,
So,
he is being critical by saying that I'm inconsistent, and to be honest, I'm also being critical of myself of being
Yeah.
inconsistent. But yeah, okay, this guy is writing, sir, मुझे HTML CSS आता है, Nvidia में कितने का पैकेज लग सकता है. This is a common, you know, jargon, a slang, a joke that runs on internet, that मुझे HTML CSS, these are the two very very basic. मेरा कितने करोड़ का पैकेज लगेगा. It's a joke that runs on internet. And Ishan is saying hi, bro. Hi, Ishan. He's my friend. He's in my class itself, and he's a good friend. He's in my class, and Ishan, how are you, Ishan? Yaar? Let's have a chit chat. Again, Avdesh Chaudhary is writing. I work in Gen AI as assistant vice president in USA company. Recently, as a hobby, researching in Nvidia new AI computer Orion Nano. I have similar first cousin like both of you.
nice.
Avdesh Chauhan, we would like to know more of you. If you can mention it in the live chat itself. भैया यूनिवर्सिटी से पास आउट हैं, किस यूनिवर्सिटी से पास आउट? Okay, so they're asking about your alma maters.
Yeah, so I graduated from California Polytechnic State University, San Luis Obispo. Short form, Cal Poly SLO. It's a university in California in the United States. So yeah, the reason I chose that college was it was close to my home. It was only 2 hours away from my parents to come visit. So
Yeah,
uh,
his father was quoting the same thing.
yeah, 2 hours, and it's one of the top engineering schools in the US. So
Okay, just tell us something about your engineering, your college life. How has it been? How are your college years?
yeah, my college years were pretty good. My first thing I ever did in college was I actually joined a Bollywood dance team. I wasn't a good dancer. I'm a good dancer, but choreographed dance I can't do. Like, I'm not a very good choreographed dancer. So I was
natural body movements.
I'm more natural person, you know, natural movements. So I I was all right, but that was one of the first things I did in college. I think, you know, you really meet the people that you gel with and the people you like to spend time with and live with, and you tend to like spend more time with those people. And in America also, like, college life is a lot of independence. Like, you live on your own, you have your own kitchen, you have your own room, you have your own laundry, you have to do everything by yourself.
Right. And he was thinking that the same life is emulated in India.
Yeah.
I mean, he was asking me that, okay, you live in hostel, so you've got a room. So he was asking that, you've got a kitchen also. I said, no, I've just got a room, and the setting in my room, and I live in a hostel. And you resided in a hostel for just a year, I guess.
Yeah, just 1 year.
So just tell us about your hostel life.
Hostel was nice. I think yeah, so for hostel I had one roommate, and we had our own floor of kind of boys that I lived with, and we were all a very tight knit community. We would get lunch together or dinner together, or sometimes, you know, go outside and eat or anything like that. And you meet a lot of people in your hostel experience. Not all of your friends from hostel will be the ones that you spend your entire life in college with. In fact, probably I'm only close to like 2-3 people I met from my hostel.
Yeah, at the end, you only actually realize that there are not a bunch or a bundle of so many students that you can be.
There's only 2-3 people you really gel with.
Yeah, I remember we were discussing the same thing, that it's always to find those one or two, or you know, those less in quantity but more in quality people in your life.
Yeah.
In every terms, especially in friendship.
Yeah.
Those quality over quantity thing. Okay.
So I mean, college was fun. You know, learned a lot about myself. I grew a lot myself, and I think, you know, ever since then, you know, you keep continuing to grow and learn more in life. That's just how life goes.
there were 12 people who are viewing us. Again, I want to say this thing. जितने भी नए लोग हैं यार, आप प्लीज हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए अगर आप पहली बार हमारे चैनल को देख रहे हैं तो, और इसको अपने बाकी दोस्तों के साथ शेयर करिए, क्योंकि वो उसको किसी ना किसी तरीके से हेल्प करेगा. ठीक है. एंड I've said this a couple of times. मैं दोबारा कह रहा हूँ कि that's how the algorithm works. हमारी वीडियो बाकी लोगों को भी सजेस्ट होगी, तो इसको ज्यादा से ज्यादा शेयर कीजिए एंड लाइक भी कर दीजिए यार. ठीक है. uh, a guy is asking, "Sir, have you been bullied for being an Indian?" I guess that's a very
That's a good question.
that's a good question.
Good question because
I think we are getting the kind of audience that we require.
yeah, good question because
Again, Harjindal is writing salary. That's gonna be a top question. We're gonna keep it at the last of the podcast.
at the end, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
But yeah, so have I ever been bullied for being an Indian? I mean, in
Basically, what they are going to extract, they want to extract, is racism that prevalent in US.
in US,
If
yeah.
you are especially Asian, specifically Indian.
Yeah, so racism definitely does exist in the United States.
Hmm.
It's different on every levels. Like, it people try to hide from it or people try to run from the fact that they're racist. But the truth is that there are places or there are instances where you will feel like you've been bullied. I have been bullied for being Indian in school
Okay.
or some other reasons. But in honesty, like it never affected me because it never got to my head. I was proud to be Indian. I'm proud to be where I'm from.
But does it affect to people at that level that they are getting traumatized?
Yeah, some people have identity issues
Okay.
in America. Like if you talk to a lot of the Indian Americans that are there,
They don't want to be
they don't
called
want to
down.
be associated with their Indian personality sometimes.
Hmm.
They believe that maybe some other type of personality would be better. Maybe I can be more American or maybe I can do something else, but that's not correct. At the end of the day, if you're Indian American, you are part of you is Indian and you have to accept that. Make
हाँ यार हरजिंदल मैं घर पे था एंड ये पॉडकास्ट मैं घर से शूट कर रहा हूँ नॉट एज आर यूजुअल पॉडकास्ट वेयर वी कॉल आवर गेस्ट इन आवर स्टूडियो यू नो वी हैव क्रिएटेड आवर रूम एज अ
you have a
स्टूडियो
studio.
yeah at the back wall
In the
we've got
college,
a
yeah.
YouTube poster and another poster as well. Okay, so another thing that I want other people to know of yours is that how did you reach out to Amazon and what were your aspirations in college? I mean, were you looking forward to all the big four, big five giant companies, or what were your placement tech aspirations?
No, I honestly, when I was just doing my interviews, I was just applying to any company I could get a job to. I wasn't like big four, big five. Obviously, yeah, I wanted to work for one of those companies, but it was any company I can get any experience at. Whatever company you work at, what matters the most is the experience you get from that company. Because when you interview with other companies, they'll talk to you about experience. They'll talk to you about what have you done. You could work at like Google or something, but say your role wasn't like very involved or you didn't have a big role, then when you come to the interview process with another company, you won't have anything to speak of. So it's very important to have those things down. When you interview with other companies, you need to have experience that pertains to those companies. And especially when I was going into Amazon, my experience, I had done AI research with a professor at Cal Poly, and I had done some other things related to that. So that's why
You were telling that thing that you had done training before with the professor.
yeah. So I did some like AI project like on MRI images where we would denoise the MRI images using some artificial neural network, like a simple like convolution neural network, nothing too big, but try to denoise the image and try to improve the accuracy of the model. And there's different layers involved: training the model, testing the model, seeing how the model would perform on the data set. So I learned a lot about kind of the AI life cycle, how different how how companies use AI for their different projects or products. And it was able to talk when I was interviewing with Amazon and other companies.
Now that you're telling these many things as the role of yours as an AI engineer, as a software engineer, I'm sure that the viewers who are viewing you, and especially your juniors, the ones who are viewing us, आप सबके मन में doubt आ रहा होगा कि how can we start, our journey as an AI engineer to become. This is how things become aspirational.
Yeah.
We do derive our aspirations, our uh, dreams, and everything from viewing people and looking up to them.
Yeah.
So many people might be wondering that how can we follow the path? Okay, as the term goes on YouTube, the roadmap thing. So I want you to just in brief, but tell how can a person, a student, as we were discussing that computer science is a skill. It's less of engineering these days, but computer science has become a skill these days. So you can acquire it. So a student, in any year, is it first year, second year, third year, final year, doesn't matter. what's your recommended path roadmap for the student to go in the AI field?
Yeah, to go into the AI field, I think the biggest thing that helped me the most was having the research and the experience with the professor.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of projects out there where you can get involved and learn how to use AI, or try different things out with AI models or LLMs. And that'll speak on your resume. So when you have like a GitHub project or a few projects under your name, maybe with the professor, maybe not with a professor, that'll help you get started in your AI journey.
Okay.
I feel like courses, they tell you how to do things, like how, like they define what the terms are. Like you learn what generative AI is, you learn what LLMs are, you learn what different multimodals and all these different names you learn, but you never actually apply them. So it's very important.
Main thing is about execution.
Execution, right?
Yeah.
Once you execute, you'll learn what are the drawbacks of these methods, what are some of the drawbacks of using these models or these parameters, or how can I scale this? One of the biggest questions is how to scale.
How to scale it.
So all these things only come from experience, and I probably emphasize this a little too much about experience, but yeah, experience matters.
No matter how miniature your experience
Yeah,
is,
all of it
but
matters.
experience always adds up to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody is asking, भैया का SAT score कितना था?
Yeah, SAT score, high school, maybe 15, 10, 15, 20, something around that range out of 1600.
I guess we are getting viewers who are more, because that's the diversity of audience.
Yeah.
I was talking to you about diversity, how it helps you in YouTube and everything. I think we've got diversity of our audience also, because अब लोग SAT का भी doubt पूछ रहे हैं. So it's the variety of doubts that we are getting. Somebody is asking about JEE, somebody is asking about admission, somebody is
Yeah.
asking about AI. That's a
That's
variety
what,
of
that's what
questions.
these podcasts do.
Podcast
brings people all over the
Right.
world around.
I just want to point a very beautiful thing that I felt, the experience that I've got of podcasting. Everybody who's watching us, I want to mention this thing. Uh, that's the diversity that we've got. The very first person who came on a podcast, I mean, I've got two of my friends, and after that, this podcast thing started. It was with a guy called, shout out to Ankit Jindal Bhaiya. He's a great guy. He got placed from a university on campus placement into a company. So he was a first guest on our podcast, and he came, and he's quite good in studies academically. The semester exams, he performed consistently well in his semester exams, and uh, he was the audience he was catering to was more of the way he was catering. He was saying that, okay, beware of reappears, and uh, the things that you can do to avoid reappears, and just don't take risk. And he was not wrong in his way.
Yeah.
He was right.
Yeah.
He
From
was
his
right.
perspective.
His perspective.
Yeah.
See, perspective, that's the correct word. Perspective, because there's so many perspective that you get, so many guests that you get. The very next guest that we got on a podcast, it was Manu, the Android engineer that I was talking about. That guy, he came on a podcast and he said, yeah, I've got the reason that I started doing Java and Kotlin and Jetpack Compose is because I got my reappear.
Yeah.
He said that, okay, you don't have to fear from these things, these semester exams and all these things. Even if you've got reappear, no issue, you can work on it, and make sure that this small failure should not be left and or seen as a permanent disability or any eternal failure. He was trying to give this kind of message. Now both of these guys, and मतलब मैं किसी को गलत नहीं कह रहा भाई, किसी को गलत नहीं कह रहा, दोनों अपनी जगह बिल्कुल सही हैं.
Yeah.
और ऑडियंस भी नहीं है, वो अलग अलग लोगों को केटर कर रहे हैं. They are trying to refer to audience on a large basis. It's the audience who will extract different things.
Yeah.
So that's how podcasts really help. And now you are coming, you are telling, you've got different data set. अंशुल भी आया था, अंशुल भैया ने अपनी अलग चीजें बताई, अंशुल भैया ने अपने अलग he was trying, he in some way exposed the companies, fake companies who try to place you, or they tend to help you in placement or something. तो वो एक अलग expose कर रहे थे. तो हमारा ना हर एक की लाइट हो रहा था हर एक podcast का. And I know this, after this podcast, this is also going to be in some way highlighted. कुछ ना कुछ podcast कहते हैं ना, हर चीज में कुछ ना कुछ अच्छा होता है. I think there is going to be, and this is soon going to be there after the podcast is going to be recorded, there's going to be an highlighted session of this podcast also.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was your Amazon journey that you were telling.
Yeah, I think like I'll give the same advice as probably the second person, where I feel it's always good to take risks at this young age. Maybe not in college and university. Because sometimes in university, it's difficult to take risks because you're on a path. But once you're out of university and you're looking for experience, take that risk. If you see a startup that you're interested in, you should take it. Because what if that startup turns out to be successful? I know there's a lot of these companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, and all these companies, that big companies that came out, like Amazon and Nvidia.
Right.
They were all small companies at
And they
some
all
point.
started with a risk.
They were all started with a risk. These people took a risk to invent these products, and they became successful.
That depends. The risk is, how is it calculated? Calculated risk should be there. And what it can it be too fatal for you? You can't revive after that. These are the things that you have to keep in mind.
Yeah, some sort of calculation needs to
Calculation
be done.
should
You
be
can't
there.
just take a risk
Blind
without
risk.
knowing what you're getting yourself
That
into.
will definitely cause fatal results for you.
Yeah, so you have to know what you're getting yourself into, but take that risk. If you calculate well and you know that, okay, I can really do this, and my life will be unstable for a few years, or something will happen. Weigh all those conditions into mind, but it'll be a lot better.
I think it's the right moment for this podcast show that we do. This particular episode, that I can ask this question. I've asked this multiple times in a podcast with different guests. Now that I'm going to ask this to an AI engineer himself, there is a lot of controversy. There are many polarizing things regarding AI is going to eat away, crush away all the jobs.
Yeah.
And you are in the AI zone yourself. So what's your take, and not just take, but what are your suggestions to people who are just thinking that, okay, we are not able to do, we'll back off, because there was Devin AI that was supposed to
Yeah, that
come
was
back
supposed to
then.
come, yeah.
That was just a crap thing. So what's your take, and what's your advice to people who are thinking about this, that AI is going to take their job?
Yeah. To be honest, I think the biggest thing that you need to do is that AI isn't. People have this misconception that AI is insanely smart, and it's going to, like, I'll give it this code, it'll be able to do it whatever it wants. It's only as smart as humans make it. So we are the ones every day who are making these larger parameter size models, more efficient, more frequent models that are better performant and better able to serve customers. They're not going to replace engineers. The job of an engineer is a lot different than the job of what AI is. Just you tell it to do something, it'll do it.
It does it.
But the idea that it can think on its own, it can react on its own, it can make its own decisions.
Creativity part.
Yeah, the creativity part, that we discussed that earlier, that element that makes us human. That part is essential anywhere you go in life. Even when you're, in corporate and talking to your boss or discussing things, there's a part of you that's human.
That's human.
Right? And that part of humanity is kind of what makes us so special. And that's what differentiates us from an AI robot. Like, I'll give you an example. In San Francisco, where I live, there's this whole craze for self-driving cars, right? Now, self-driving,
That's the coincidence. The second guy who came on our podcast, Manu gave the very same example
about self-driving cars.
Right. He was saying that automatic cars, and he didn't give exactly of self-driving cars, but he was discussing about autopilot. I mean, shout out to Manu. He was discussing that autopilots kitne pehle aa gaye the. But still we require the manual thing where the pilot is actually handling the aircraft. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, the self-driving cars things is that yeah, exactly. AI will not take the job. Person skilled with AI will take the job.
Nvidia founder. He
Yeah.
said this. Okay.
Yeah, he did. But so yeah, like self-driving cars, like, they are all based off data that has been provided and fed to them. But however, driving is a very reactive job. If someone turns in front of you or makes an incorrect turn, that's a new scenario. And that is a new scenario that I
okay, he's my friend who's written this. Badhiya bol raha hai bhai, Nix. He's from my hostel itself. His name is Abhishek.
Hi, Abhishek.
And right, whenever we go live and whenever we have this our live session, this podcast, it's a great thing that the people whom we actually meet in real life, they
Yeah.
all just show up in the live chat and they are talking. So it's a good chit chat session that just becomes,
Yeah.
and it's how organically it comes. That's a good thing for a fresher. Where to start?
Computer science. Everything starts from computer science. Essentials of computer science. This is what my opinion is that computer science is like the trunk of everything that you do. And then AI, backend, front end, HTML, CSS, React, all these things, and cloud
And they're expecting
computing.
after HTML, CSS, they want to get 1 CR package at least. And that's a running joke
Yeah, yeah,
on the internet.
yeah, but these are all branches.
You know,
So
in our last podcast also, this question was there. Sir, HTML CSS कर लिया है, कितने का package लग जाएगा? So the guy who was guessed, he was becoming even more sarcastic. He said, HTML कर लिया है तो 1 करोड़ का लग, अच्छा CSS भी कर लिया है, फिर तो 10 करोड़ का लग जाएगा. He was saying something like this. So that was a great thing. भाई AI ML फ्रेशर के लिए अच्छा है, क्योंकि मैंने सुना है कि जॉब नहीं लगती AI ML की एज अ फ्रेशर.
नहीं
Okay,
लग
this is also a thing that is being talked. I just got to know from a couple of friends of mine that for you to get placed as an AI engineer in that AI ML field, you require an experience of at least a decade. How true is it?
Not true. Not true. I have people who are working with me who straight out of college who are AI/ML
Mm-hmm.
engineers. That's not how it works because the thing is that you can have college experience, research experience. You can have different levels of experience. It doesn't have to be job experience, which is AI/ML. You can have lots of experience, and I can send you people who have experience in AI/ML who graduated just out of college. Um, yeah, so like those type of things, and like just any projects you can take up. Like the next question, can you
Right, right,
recommend
right.
any project ideas? There's so many
That's
projects
again a very
available.
prevalent question that
Yeah.
people have, and I've seen many students, many people who have been stuck on this question itself for their entire college life. That what project, what language should I start with, and what
Well, if it's
technologies?
AI/ML, then you should start with Python.
Python.
And if you really want to focus on like ML specific language, then PyTorch is the most simplest to understand. There's also other frameworks like JAX. There's all these other things that you can learn more about. But Python, PyTorch, that's the package to use. And you can start with like Google Colab or something to just test out your experiments and stuff. Um, GitHub is a great place to look
Great
for
source.
project ideas. To be honest, you'll see a lot of people who are in a similar boat as you are, and you can see what projects they're working on and kind of link to where that is. But all that is all that you can use. GitHub is a great resource. So GitHub
Right.
is your friend in these cases.
Similar is the very nice HTML CSS regarding question. Of course, not that we are expecting. Somebody is asking, I know HTML CSS, JavaScript, React, Native, but I'm not getting interviews.
Are you looking for interviews? Is this your first job or is this
I guess the person is saying that they're not getting, I mean, they're not getting the vacancies,
vacancies mean job, right?
jobs, job
Yeah.
vacancies.
Yeah, so it's tough because you just have to keep applying when you're a freshman. Sometimes you can know people in the organization and you can get them to help you clear your resume. But
The same guy, the same person is writing,
and
I
then
have done
freelancing
freelancing projects.
projects,
Okay.
yeah. So sometimes you just need to get the help of like other people
I think
or
this thing that the guy has written, I've done freelancing projects, this again adds up to the experience part that you were discussing.
yeah, like like having the experience in freelance projects and being able to discuss those in interviews, but I think they're struggling with not being able to get interviews
Get
because
interviews.
right, so you also have to look into the roles that you're applying to. So if you're applying to roles where HTML, CSS, and JS, React Native,
Mm-hmm.
those are skills that are essential for the job,
That I actually require.
then that'll be more likely to happen. But if you don't apply for those, then it's less likely you'll be also getting interviews. Another thing that you should also try is that if you have a company that you're interested in, find somebody that you can reach out to and directly reach out to them and ask them, hey, I'm interested in this position in your company. It could be a recruiter, could be anybody. and send them your resume. So now you're kind of shortlisted and not in that heavy stack of resumes that's
Right,
always
right,
there.
right. By this time, I guess 11 people are viewing us. Again, I want to say this: the unique viewers, the new viewers of our podcast episode. Please like this video, यार. इसको share भी कर दो अपने बाकी दोस्तों के साथ. And definitely after this podcast, I think more number of people are going to connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Guys, मैं तुषार का जो भी LinkedIn profile है वो मैं इसी podcast episode के description में डाल दूंगा after this podcast ends. ठीक है? And you guys can connect with Tushar and myself because the links will be given in the description box itself. And that's how, I mean, that's my doubt, and many people have got this doubt that up till what extent this referral thing and of LinkedIn approach, of this cold email, all these things, all these should help you in long run.
It helps. It helps you initially because initially, you don't have any means of,
Right.
you don't have any experience. Yeah, the
Experience.
project experience, yes, I mentioned that'll help for sure because that'll help you.
I think
talk in the
project will
interview.
help you in this
Interview.
yeah.
But when you actually need to talk to people or
Hmm.
like put your resume on the
Hmm.
on this thing,
Uh-huh.
then you need to have some means or some way to know somebody to get that resume and
Right.
shortlisted. Otherwise, there's so much competition. So many resumes, so many competitive resumes. They're gonna pick the best candidate, right? So you need to find yourself in a short stack where they can just select from that stack and kind of just how to do that. And can you guide how to do cold emails and how to find emails?
I think this is a very, very highly demanded question. To me also, whenever the juniors meet, they've got this question that, okay, we've heard this cold emailing, and we've seen a tons of videos. How is it actually implementable? And I think you're going to give a good crash course to the people who want to know about cold emailing and find how to find. See, the person has written himself or herself, whosoever he or she is. Can you guide how to do cold email and how to find emails? Both the things. If you want to find the customer.
So for me, LinkedIn has always been the best resource. There's other job websites, but you can just message these people directly on LinkedIn.
Okay.
With your own LinkedIn like message, send note. You can send a note to the recruiter. Sometimes the recruiters allow notes, sometimes they don't allow notes. Or you can find somebody in that company that works in that organization. It has to be somewhat in that organization. Like when you see the role will show you what team and what organization they work for. You have to reach out to that person in that role and
Okay.
organization, and you have to take whatever skills are listed on the kind of LinkedIn website, and um, you have to use those in your cold email. You have to highlight those and show how have you used those in your project, saying like, I have experience in this skill due to my project in XYZ. All right. Or like my project in XYZ. Use active voice where you're saying like, I have this ability to do this because of my project here. And you can maybe briefly describe your project. If you don't want to go too into your project, you don't have to. But your cold email should kind of sell why you are a good fit for that company and that
Okay.
organization. And
Uh,
and the thing is that cold emails, a lot of them won't work. Like 1 to 10, you can send 10 and none of them will work. But there's going to be a higher chance of those succeeding than just blindly applying on a website where 1,000 people have submitted their application, right? So just keep trying, and cold emails will eventually work. It all just takes time.
Right. Time, it's all function of a time. And okay, Avdesh is writing, loved your podcast, wishing you both all the best, logging off for now. It was a great thing. I mean, I just want to thank all the people who view us, who witness this podcast throughout. Of course, it's not the end of the podcast. It's just that I saw this guy's beautiful comment, and
That's very nice of you.
yeah, I just get overwhelmed by just reading these kind of comments. Or when people meet me in person, they appreciate even a bit of your work, even
Yeah.
an ounce of your work, and it makes your day. It actually makes your day.
Yeah, it's very sweet, because everybody's learning from us,
Right.
from our conversation,
In some way.
in some way. They're all tuning in and they're enjoying.
Mm.
See, like 8 people. We've had like maybe 16 people at one point in
Of
the
course.
podcast. So like everybody comes and enjoys and learns something.
Something out of it.
It's always a
True.
good experience.
Yeah, I feel that in this way, it's the investment that they're doing.
Yeah.
They are not investing money, actually. Of course they are, in terms of the internet, but it's the time that all these people are investing,
Yeah.
and the time that they've invested. Okay, Avdesh has given $10 also.
Thanks,
Okay,
Avdesh.
thanks Avdesh.
Thank you.
That's great, Avdesh. That's a good thing.
Nice.
Thank you, Avdesh.
Thank you, Avdesh.
And I guess that's why, because it's not just that he's giving money. That's why
Yeah,
I'm saying
it's
this
not
thing.
just the money thing. It's
We were
they're all
saying this
learning.
anyways. We
Yeah.
were saying this anyways that uh, it's the time. The currency is time.
Yeah.
The currency is time, because especially in today's generation, and I'm not bashing the entire generation. I'm bashing myself. I'm blaming myself, because we've got our screen time, not screen time. Sorry, we've got our attention time less than 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And in that sort of generation, that sort of time period, the headspace that people currently have, they're viewing our podcast of an hour and a half or 2 hours maybe. I mean, they've got that leverage. They can click the back option and they can just quit the podcast at any time. But still, these 10 people are viewing us.
Yeah.
I genuinely want to thank all the people who subscribed our channel, who once subscribed our channel and then unsubscribed it, because they contributed in some way. I remember when we hit 1K subscribers. It was on 17th of August, and I was at my home. I was doing my live session because it was the admission
YouTube
season.
gives you like a little like thing when you hit 1K.
It actually YouTube gives you the silver play button when you get 100K subscribers.
Okay.
I did 1K, and it's the very first milestone of any creator, any YouTuber. And it was a counseling admission season, I remember. And in that live session, I said this thing that I'm not having any sort of grudges, any sort of bad, what you can say,
Feelings or
feelings,
emotions.
anything for anybody
Yeah.
who with whom I've had anything. Because right now I'm grateful to anybody who's watching, everyone who's watching.
Yeah.
Because in some way or the other they've contributed.
Yeah.
If somebody came to just to bash our content or anything, uh, they contributed in the terms of views.
Yeah.
So
They did something.
it
you
did
know,
something,
like,
and
yeah.
of course something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
in that way, I think I cannot play with somebody who's watching me. These 9 people who are watching us, they want to extract something. They want to know something. Of course, nobody would want to willingly waste their time, right?
Yeah.
They want to.
They're spending their time.
They're spending their time.
To
It is
spend.
this. People say that okay, this guy is spendthrift. This guy is spendthrift. Or you're discussing this, spending capability right now. So how do we actually measure? What's the SI unit? What's the currency of knowing the spending? In terms of YouTube, I think it is time.
Yeah.
It is time.
Time.
I want to discuss, and I guess it's a podcast of Ranveer Alabadia. He's the top podcaster of India. He hosts his own podcast. So he was having an episode with Rohit Shetty. He's Rohit Shetty's India's biggest director,
biggest
one of the
director.
biggest directors, and he's the one who's directed Singham and
All
many
the big
action
shot
movies.
yeah.
So I remember the setup, that context was like Ranveer Alabadia must be asking about the generic question that, sir, are you bashed for your movies, that your movies have illogical action scenes or something like that? I don't actually know the question, but because I got to know the answer, I'm able to frame the question. So his question was somewhat similar to this. He ended up answering that, Ranveer, the kind of movies that I make, they cater to the family audience. A guy who's earning 60,000, 50,000 per month. And he said that that person is coming to view my movie. He's coming to view my movie with his family in his car, and that car has got, it must have costed him a petrol. And then he's parking his car in the parking lot, and then he's buying tickets for his family. He's buying popcorn and he's eating out there in mall. He says he's spending those 5 to 6 thousand rupees. He's giving me 10% of his income. He said because that person is giving me 10% of his income to me, he's paying to me.
Yeah.
I cannot justify my thing with creative freedom, artistic liberty, creative satisfaction, and all these creative terms that people use. He said, I am creating mass content. I'm creating entertaining content. My movies, not videos. My movies are specific to in terms of entertainment. Why would I then cater the depth thing, or why don't you add this thing to your movie? He said, I am catering to the comedy audience, to the funny
You have
audience.
to always cater to your audience.
You have to make
Always
it.
has to
Yeah,
make
of course.
it
For
engaging.
him, humorous thing works. he keeps it going because
his
he knows.
movies are all very similar in nature.
Right,
Really.
and that was the question, I guess. So he was answering it, and I really liked the answer because at the end we all are doing it for the audience.
Yeah.
This is the kind of conversation that we would have had.
Yeah.
But I
We're
often
just filming it now. Yeah.
we're just filming it.
Yeah.
And I often say this, all the guests who come on a podcast, that the people who come, I just the very first wholesale motive of making this channel was that whenever there is a screen in between, there are people beyond that screen. There's so
Yeah.
many people who are viewing us. Right now it's 9, but when it will be in recorded format, there'll be thousands of people who can view it. If your
Yeah.
video is
Anybody can
published,
see it on
anybody can
YouTube.
view it,
Yeah.
your video. So I felt that because of that screen medium, that it you are behind the screen, many things are filtered out, many things are kept hidden from you, and that thing that we say that it comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But then I thought, okay, that is the stereotypical thing that I have to break, because through with the help of this channel. And I just want to thank everyone. मतलब उन्हीं की वजह से आज शायद यहीं तक पहुंचा हूं मैं.
Hmm.
Our channel is able to get this much views and everything, whatever we're getting. So I can't be thankful enough. And that was a motive, that people get unfiltered actual thing.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation. I
Yeah,
felt that
unfiltered.
uh, you know whatever I'm learning from you, the kind of conversation that we are getting, if it will be better for all the audience. And because majority of our audiences are, because the new ones who've joined us, they are juniors.
Hmm.
They are the ones in who are sophomore, who are freshies.
Freshmen,
So
freshers.
I guess it will be a good learning experience. And you've told enough about experience
Yeah, definitely. I
in the
mean,
podcast
of course, in terms of experience, my LinkedIn is in the this thing,
description.
so you can always reach out to me or
Yeah.
reach out to him for any experience related things. Resume reviews, I might do them, I might not do them. I'll see them, but if you
Somebody is writing, Neerav Raval is writing, voice is not clear. Guys, please let us know if voice is not clear.
Yeah, we can adjust.
We can do something of it. Please confirm us if voice is clear or not. Else we can't move ahead in the podcast. Okay, Himanshu Sharma is again writing, I'm from Decrest Murtal. See, that's what I'm saying. Most of our viewers are from Decrest. That's my
Yeah.
university. So
It makes sense. I think they probably know you or probably are already subscribed to you. You have
yeah,
one-
they have subscribed. I mean, those are the people I want to contribute. I want to give my vote of thanks to.
Yeah, they're the ones who are supporting you.
Of course, waiting for resume reviews. Okay,
It is clear. Okay,
everything is
cool.
clear.
All right, yeah. So back to what I was saying. Yeah, I mean, experience-wise, yeah. Let me know any experience help you might need.
I mean, you can
always
reach out to Tushar via his LinkedIn, and I'm going to mention his LinkedIn in our description box. If you're viewing it as a recorded format, if you want to reach out to this guy, you can reach out via his LinkedIn. It's all the details are in the description box. Okay. Somebody's writing, I'm from GJU. It's a university. It's in Hisar, in Haryana itself.
Acha.
It's another university. This guy also, he was with us. Ever since our channel was at 400 subscribers.
Nice.
It feels good because I remember
OG subscriber.
there was somebody who came to me and he said, I've been viewing your channel ever since you had 200 subscribers.
Yeah, it's a
I
nice
said,
thing.
wow,
Yeah,
that's a heroic thing.
yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Guys, if you have any doubt you want to ask, you can talk to him.
Any more questions?
Any more
Yeah.
questions or anything? Okay, he's asking me. Okay, I am from Decrest itself. भाई मैं Decrest से ही हूँ. मैं Decrest में third year में पढ़ रहा हूँ, CSE में. Or you can check my LinkedIn. It's in the description box, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's how you can connect with me. Okay, so Tushar, what are your takes on off-campus placements?
Off-campus placement, meaning out of
your college.
Out of your
That
college.
you have to self-reach out to the companies.
Yeah, to be honest, there were a few interviews that I did out of campus, which were.
And I think it's a first-hand experience for my audience also. I mean, for our audience in some way. Audience on my YouTube channel, that they are getting to know somebody internationally.
Yeah,
How things work,
definitely.
because they've got to know a lot about people. Of course, they can get to know
They
about
can
people.
know a lot about people here,
Right.
how
But
things are
it's the
different
very
in
first
America.
time that somebody is telling about their native country and how things are different from India. And then they'll keep it in a tabular form and they'll compare, okay, this is different in India, this is different in US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like in sorry, what was the question?
You were telling that you had already applied for
Yeah,
off-campus
off
placement.
campus. Yeah, off campus. So for off campus stuff, I did interview quite a bit with off campus companies, like and all this cold emailing, resume stuff, refining my resume, and finding people I can reach out to or that I might know or might not know. That always helps, So yeah, it's more difficult, obviously, on campus placement because the company knows the college, so they're more likely to transition those people in.
Right.
But there are places where you can do a cold apply and get in. It's possible, but it's less
Have you
chances.
seen any of your peer?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people. And in America, I think the thing is that companies do have a tie up with colleges, but that does not necessarily mean that the students will not apply elsewhere out of campus placements and they'll get a job. They'll definitely get a job off campus placements for off campus placements.
Off-campus placement do actually work.
Yes.
It's, people often say that, okay, it's a myth, off-campus placement is not
At least
effective
in
enough.
America, it works. I don't know about India, but at least in America, I know it
Okay,
works.
America it does work. Okay, this guy is writing, my paper kaisa hua? Yeah, paper was good, exam was quite good. I am from electrical engineering branch first year. Okay, you
Yes,
were also from
I was
electrical.
also electrical.
Okay, so he's going to tell you about his electrical engineering,
Yeah, electrical is
and he's done a major in computer
I
science.
majored in electrical
No,
actually.
no, minor. You've got a minor degree in computer science.
Minor degree in computer science.
Okay.
Yeah, so I majored in electrical, minored in computer science. To be honest, I enjoyed coming from an electrical background. It taught me a lot about engineering, and I always feel like electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and all of these types of engineering, they really teach you about the whole design life cycle of engineering,
Mm-hmm.
from the design process to like the verification process, to the build process, to like the analysis process, and all these steps are kind of highlighted all in that engineering process. And computer science to me is like a
Skill.
skill that you can develop over the years and continue to develop because online resources are available all the time. You have always access to a
Right.
computer that you can tinker with,
It's a
or to
different,
Google.
separate entity itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an,
But it's a skill that you can apply to an engineering discipline. So like
Okay.
in Nvidia or where I worked at previously, like my job was to apply these, software skills that I have of AI ML onto these custom hardware chips. Custom hardware chips deals with like chips, electrical kind of background. So that helped in me helping get that job. My electrical background actually helped in me getting that Amazon job.
Okay, that
Yeah.
did help you.
Yeah, because that job is very specific for um that job is very specific for having some sort of electrical background or some sort of electrical understanding of how semiconductors and chips work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this guy is asking any advice you give me for college exams or career in electrical engineering.
Careers in electrical engineering, I would say that in electrical, like electrical engineering is about to have quite big of a boom. like it's going to go
Because of EVs, is it?
not because of EVs, because of just the amount of compute power that's required in the world, the amount of chips that's required in the world.
In upcoming
Chips
sense, you're saying,
upcoming.
Okay.
Chips are required everywhere. Chips are required in AI. Chips are required in cars and watches and
Watches.
iPhones, everything, and it's going to continue to grow. And different, more complex designs will come. Different circuit types will come. So my advice is that a lot of people tend to like switch from electrical to computer science. I would not make that switch. I would stay in electrical. I deal
Okay.
with and maybe get some computer science background in the process.
But
You can,
Tushar, in India specifically, uh, people have got this thing in their mind. They feed it this thing in their mind that we have to switch to IT, we have to switch to IT because
yeah.
that's something that's gonna boom. No, core is not something. Core is not a cup of tea. Though they are enrolled in engineering, in electrical engineering, in mechanical engineering, but they
They always
still
want to
after that
switch.
they want that. IT is the boom. IT is the boom. AI.
Yeah, but see, the thing is like, yes, you can say you're a computer science student, right? But if everybody's a computer science student, then what's separating you apart?
Right.
You guys took the same courses, you guys had the same issue, like gone through all that. So
Okay, he's the guy that I was talking, Manu. He was our guest, that Android.
acha,
Uh,
okay.
Shout out to Manu Bhai. Manu Bhai is writing, where do you see the AI after 5 years from now? Because Nvidia CEO Jen, okay, said that all the coding will be done by AI. How much he was right, or he was just doing marketing?
As I said, like,
मन्नू भाई ने बिल्कुल डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन पूछा है, बिल्कुल स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन पूछा है. I think that's gonna answer a ton of questions.
yeah.
That the question was ना AI कितना replace कर देगा? Is it more replaceable? I think it sums up everything.
Yeah, so I think what AI is going to do, see if it's used for a good benefit, is that they'll create these agents, different type of agents which you can work with. Like one agent is a programming kind of co-pilot pair programming, where it pairs your programming and it kind of makes it happen. But um, these agents can be used by engineers and employees to build their products or software. I don't think AI will ever have the complexity to replace what an engineer does today. Like an engineer in electrical, engineer in mechanical, engineer in these disciplines, AI will never be able to
When
replace
human
them.
cannot be remade.
A human cannot be remade. No, because a human has to react, has to feel, and all these things.
I mean, those emotions also play a crucial role while creating something,
While
while
creating
in
something, or
development.
yeah, in anything really,
Anything,
and
right?
anything you do, and anything you live
People
by.
are often misconstrued that okay, emotions only help in this sector of my life or this zone of my life.
Yeah,
But that's the reason why AI is not able to replace.
exactly. Right. So yes, a part of AI programming, a part of coding will be replaced by AI.
It
That
will
that's
be.
that's obvious, because simple things like doing this simple task of automating getting these numbers from a spreadsheet, or simple tasks like even creating a website and
Right.
designing it, all that AI can do in 5 years. It probably can do it today, to be honest. Some not too well, but a part of that's what AI is working towards. There's companies which are coming up with products like app creation through AI, but the actual physical designer and the design process and the verification process, all that is still going to be done by engineers.
Right.
And what is making these AIs agents smarter and making them larger in scale to accomplish such more difficult tasks, those type of engineers will continue to stay in the field.
They will.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, especially in terms of entertainment, also, because entertainment is something where you require emotions
Yeah.
to portray and everything. That is irreplaceable in terms of AI, at least for a hell long period.
Yeah.
And I think entertainment is a very like black or white statement where you're giving the answer. It's completely, just to make the person secure. Okay, AI is irreplaceable and everything. But in other fields also that we've discussed so far, I think it's a long way
Yeah.
that AI is going to replace.
AI, it's a long way away. I mean,
But I have a question on this, that humans also, they've got this characteristic that they are also changing over the years. They are changing.
humans evolve over the years.
They are evolving. They're changing. Their capabilities are changing. Their, that generation is changing in terms, in every term.
Yeah.
They're evolving, as you said. How can you say that they will be able to keep pace with AI?
I mean, who's building the AI agents in the first place? All right. It's all humans. So
Right.
at the end of the day, humans will always be in control. Oh, granted, up to an extent,
An extent.
but
That's an important thing that you have to say.
provided an extent, humans have accomplished crazy things. I mean, think about all the innovations that have happened over the years. We've been to the moon. We've enabled cross global communication.
Right.
FaceTime is it's such an
I mean,
amazing
even
concept.
sometimes right now, I think I close my eyes and I think, do we actually have witnessed all these things? That if I mean, 20 years back, 2 decades back, if you told me that you want something, you want an answer, and I'll give you within seconds, I would have probably laughed at it.
Yeah, you would have to go to the library, look
Yeah.
through books.
And now you have it. You have search engines, you've got things.
You have open AI.
You have got now, you've got open AI and chat GPT. And similarly, there would be certain things that I would say right now, and people would probably laugh at it.
Mm.
But 20 years down the line, you do not know how the world would unfold.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, again, it's all crazy just to see how much the world has changed in the last 10, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to continue to evolve, and we're going to continue to grow, and AI is going to continue to grow for another 5 years. I think eventually, though, there's going to be a time when people will evaluate how necessary is AI for my solution. Sometimes people can overcomplicate, oh,
Right.
sorry, uh, over complexize their
Manu is again asking, many companies are announcing layoffs, like Google's CEO says that they are going to lay off 10% managerial roles because of AI. Okay, the manager part, they're going to lay off. Okay, what's your take for AI thing?
so 10% managerial roles. Yeah, that this announcement, I've read a little bit into this. I think it's mostly
Acha, what's
because,
your take on layoffs, first of all? Because I
yeah,
think it's referring to layoffs in broader perspective, this question.
yeah, I mean, layoffs, it's awful for the employee, but for, it sucks
Of
because
course
you're
it
you're
does.
completely
I'm asking
screwing
how
up a
prevalent is
person's
it
life.
in US?
It's quite prevalent.
It is.
In the US, this is the thing, it's very normal to be laid off. Like, it's a very normal reality that people
Hmm.
live in, that
They have to accept
they
it.
can get laid off. This can happen. And it doesn't have to be just performance related, right? You can say, oh, was it my performance?
Hmm.
Sometimes it just happens, and that's okay. Because there in the US, you can get laid off, you can get hired the next day, or like it'll take a few months, but you'll get hired to give you severance or something. So the reason why they're planning on laying off 10% managerial roles is probably just to remove middle management layers. I know that's what Amazon was targeting on doing. They want to flatten their business structure so that more engineers can talk to higher managers. It's a very corporate answer, but I mean, I'm sure there is some AI kind of thing. I have heard of
Your thing that's
companies.
reaching there.
Yeah, I have heard of companies that are laying off because they feel like AI can handle some of that work, but tends to not be the case because AI is not, matured enough yet as a
At least for a
technology.
long period.
Yeah, because some software engineer jobs, like, to say it in brute terms, they
Hmm.
they can be done by AI. Like, it is unfortunately true,
Hmm.
because AI is quite complex. Like, it has the ability to do front end tasks. It has the ability to, design these web pages and all that.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll take over these jobs in the next one to
But
two
those
years.
laborious tasks that were
Yeah,
once seen that
it'll be
it can be.
optimized, like, especially like build tasks, like building software. Like, building software for an engineer is often pretty difficult, and there's a lot of complexities and layers involved in it. AI can do something like that in like a few minutes, like
Right, it can.
optimize that task for you, or like optimize your build structure so that it's not so complex and you don't have that many layers in it. Another thing is like migration, right? Like, a lot of people have issues when they're migrating their application from Python 3.8 to Python 3.10, like a new Python version. So that type of stuff, like, an engineer shouldn't have to deal with,
Deal
because
with it.
that's something that's external to them. But still, they have to deal with it. Like, those type of jobs, AI will replace, because AI has the capability to do that.
Right. Okay, Shan is asking that friend who,
Yeah.
he's writing that is it compulsory to have a master's of PhD in data science and to have a good experience of like 5 to 7 years to get a job in this field in companies like Google and Amazon? What's your take on this particular thing?
At least in America, no, it's not required. Um, Again, yeah, see this, I'm speaking from my
Yeah, of
experience.
course. They're also asking in terms of because their questions are also less of domestic but referring to international. When they're saying Google, Google is somewhat you can refer to as worldwide thing.
Yeah, it is a worldwide thing. I
Hmm.
don't I don't think it's not necessary to do all that. Um,
One
oh,
question that I can ask to all, of course, he was a guest, that
yeah,
Android
Manu
guest that you
Kumar,
understood.
GPA skills.
He's basically referring to the fact that we were just discussing I was saying that the very first guest on a podcast, he was
Yeah.
saying that don't take risks, be good at your
Oh
studies
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
academically
yeah.
sound. The very next person was this very guy, and he was saying that you should be good at skills. You'll not be asked to solve these many exams in your company. You'll be asked to solve a problem statement.
Skills. In my opinion, skills.
Yeah, of course,
In my opinion,
skills
skills.
any day.
Any day, yeah. Because skills is what truly builds
That's gonna
you
pay you
and,
off.
and pays you off at the end of the day. Especially, I'll tell you this, especially when you're in a job and you're looking at a job, some of those technical skills that you acquire, that's
Mhm.
great. But the soft skills that you learn over the years, those
Right.
are what makes you commendable as an engineer. And that's what's going to help you in life. And, all your technical knowledge, anybody can get technical knowledge. Like I can take a quick course on AI/ML and
Right.
know what I'm doing, but it's the soft skills that make you as a person, like how you present yourself, how you talk, how you lead, how you build software, how you develop, how you are able to explain things to people, and communication.
I feel
These
those
things
soft
matter.
skills are something that are not able, AI is not able to emulate that.
No, AI won't be able to. AI will just follow a standard specific pattern, and
The
you need
same,
those
the
soft
same thing that you
skills.
said.
Yeah.
Technical thing can be emulated very easily these days. But again, when soft skills, I've said this many a times in my videos that as far as soft skills are required, you have to work on them. Technicality is something that will come eventually.
Yes. Yeah. Or
Soft
it can
skills.
come anytime. And the thing is that technicality, the interesting thing with technical stuff is that in the computer science field, things will always be changing. 10 years before it was cloud computing and all this was kind of the hype. And now it's AI.
AI.
And like 20 years before that, it was Java, and then Java busted. So like it's always relative, you always have to realize that technology is going to
Is
consistently keep changing,
dynamic.
and you're going to have to keep up with those changing technologies, which
It's
is
never
why
static. It's
your
never
soft
going to be
skills should
there.
also have learning
You have to
focus.
thrive on them.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a direct answer to anybody who's asking GP or skills. Do you have to maintain, certain set of marks or anything? I mean, skills. This is something that any sane person would say, and it's a sane preference between GP or skills. It's
Yeah,
always
it makes
skills.
sense. Yeah, it would be skills, but I can see why people would say GPA coming from the
Hmm.
background. But in my opinion, skills matter.
Right, they've got their own justification for that, and
Yeah.
that works for.
Yeah.
But the thing is that GPA would work for a certain set of people. But if you've got skills acquired, and that is something I'm assuming anybody who's got good conviction, good willpower, and uh, decent discipline can acquire that.
Yeah.
And eventually, with the help of that, you can acquire soft skills.
Mhm.
So it's a good combination of both those things. Again, I want to say that the ones who are viewing us, who have been up till 1 hour 28 minutes on this podcast, I want to thank all of you, and I want to say that please like, share, and subscribe, and so that it suggests this video is suggested to more people. As again, I want to quote this thing yet again and again, because I feel that the audiences, they don't get anything in return apart from the knowledge and
Yeah.
education. I mean, everyone who viewed us, see, we've got 19 likes in this live session itself.
Yeah.
We've got 19 likes, so that means 19 people were there who came there and who got affected,
And
who
enjoyed the stream.
enjoyed, and they liked it. I mean, a guy, he even gave us super chat of $10.
Was it expecting that?
I mean, $10.
Yeah.
So see, it became 20. Guys, please just
We really appreciate
we
all the
really
support.
appreciate. And I'm just so elated that because during the live session we got a 20 likes, and it's a huge number.
Yeah.
Because I think social media and this internet thing, this has actually made us realize that it has not realized us, but it has not made us realize, but it has kept this notion in our mind that the numbers are a very small thing. I discussed the same thing in our last podcast also, that uh, we are just we can just undervalue 15 likes in today's date, but actually think 15 people standing in front of you and saying you look good today.
Yeah. That's a great feeling.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
You'll walk like a king throughout the day.
Yeah, definitely.
That's how social media has undermined the power of numbers. And all the people who have viewed us, they had the choice, they had the decision to watch anything. They could have scrolled.
They have their time, right?
Right, they have got their specific
They're
time.
spending their time with us today.
I mean, they could have seen shorts, they could have seen reels, they could have seen short form content, they could have seen vertical content. but still they are actually clicking on this live session and they are viewing us throughout, and they're acquiring knowledge. They're getting affected. I feel that, I mean, whenever somebody comes up to me, he's a junior or she's a junior, whenever they say, Bhaiya, I like your content, we've seen this, I feel that I cannot do anything more than just a thank you or a hug.
Definitely.
That's the max that I can do.
Yeah. No, it's very nice feeling.
I feel I start feeling overwhelmed. I didn't tell you there was an experience. I've told this on camera a couple of times. There was a guy who came to me, and he was not looking into my eyes. He was looking down and he was saying, "You are Akshat Parashar. I know you. I've seen you on YouTube." Okay, and his hands were shaking.
Oh, like you're a celebrity. Yeah.
I mean, his hands were shaking, and I was feeling overwhelmed that why are you treating like me like this? I mean, I'm a normal person, and his hands were shaking, and he was trying to normalize this thing. Ki, Ajay, I've met you're just a senior, but that thing was apparent that it's different for him, and he was shaking and he was saying, now I'll keep meeting you. You're my university itself, and I said, ah, of course. But he was trying. Although he was uncomfortable, I was trying to comfort him. But in that scenario, I was getting uncomfortable because I thought, I mean, you know, you get uncomfortable in those kind of situations. I thought, can I do something more than this? I hugged that guy. I said, if you need anything, I'm there. I'm not just a senior, but you know me as person. You can take my number. I said those things, but I thought, can I do anything more than this?
Yeah.
And I, huge shout out to everybody who's people have actually showed up. They've liked, they've
watched,
responded,
they come and saw, they ask questions.
they ask questions in this, especially today's date where eternally, there's nothing
Not a
that's
lot
to
of
do.
people spend that much
Actually,
time on content.
why would they?
We discussed this earlier, right? Everything has like a beginning, a climax point, and then
Right.
an anticlimactic point where
Right.
everything kind of just disseminates. That, in terms of reels, is like 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
You know, you have a rock
That
that's
hook
coming
that we were
down.
discussing.
Yeah, the hook.
Hook.
There's a rock that comes down and hits.
I was telling him. I was telling him about that viral Instagram reel, that when you're viewing your reels and in between there is a reel that comes where somebody is throwing a rock, and as soon as you throw the rock is going down, 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 and you're waiting for that rock to hit that bottom so that you can get that dopamine rush and you can feel satisfied. And that's a hook.
Yeah.
That's a hook. And people just want to be satisfied for that dopamine rush. That's it. I mean, in today's generation, people are not able to view 2 hours movies, three hour long movies. And in that generation, if somebody is viewing our 2 hour podcast,
That's amazing. Yeah,
that's
stuck with us the whole time.
I mean,
or even came for like a few minutes. You know, that's
of
all
course,
that matters.
they added up in some way.
Yeah.
They did contribute to the watch hours. They did contribute to the view time.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel that I can't thank them enough.
Definitely.
Everybody who's contributed, everybody. And in terms of movies also, especially the movies that are made these days, they have to, as you were saying, that they have to keep in mind the peculiarity part. How is it different from the other films? Because I was watching Ranbir Kapoor's podcast with Nikhil Kamath, and he was saying this. I said, that he was Nikhil Kamath was asking something about his father, that how does he derive something from his father's career or something. So he said that when my father was in films, audience was way more forgiving. Audience could see this, through in the entire year you'll watch movies on the same theme. For example, you've got in the entire year the films are on Lost and Found, or the same kind of themes. But he said nowadays audience is not that forgiving. You cannot, even if there'll be 3 movies that are of same, what you can say, not genre especially, but the theme, because there's a specific theme of, when you learn acting technically, you understand there's a theme. He said audience is not at all forgiving. And then he added up with this, that the reason Animal did so much well was because of the peculiarity part, was because
it was different.
It was not preachy.
Yeah. And it was a different type of movie, right? So
You've seen Animal?
Yeah, I've seen Animal. It's a good movie. The thing is that the big thing to understand is that it's not going to be your typical movie that you see where there's, where you have your hero and your hero defeats this villain, and then the villain, the end of story, everyone's happy. There's some love story. But
we witnessed the same people who are appreciating Godfather, where the person is killing his own brothers.
Yeah.
But they are against Animal, where he's obsessed with his father.
Yeah.
So, I just don't understand the dynamic. But I also see the other part, because whenever you are saying something, or you are trying to, explain your point, you have to see the both side of the coin.
Yeah.
I think that people often say that Animal was a good movie, I enjoyed it, and cinema, Bollywood is not a place from where you derive the morality sense.
Yeah.
I personally feel that though cinema is not meant to be, where you can derive your morality sense, but it ends up with such an impact that people have on their lives. The implication that people have after watching a film,
Hmm.
when a film releases, because in India, there are two kinds of gods.
Hmm.
Especially, I would say, in totality, there are three kinds of god. First is the god, second is cricketers, and third are actors.
Yeah.
So people, especially the audience, they derive the characteristics of the
Sometimes
actors,
politicians as well.
politicians, celebrities in,
Yeah.
in general.
Celebrities. Yeah.
So if there's there a movie comes, and in movie you are the main hero. Ranbir Kapoor was saying the same thing, that I did something. He said, throughout my career so far, before Animal, I did all the movies. I was playing the good boy. I was playing the
Yeah. The
acceptable things.
yeah.
I was doing the acceptable things, and but in Animal, you will get to see something that's a couple of things, a dozen of things
Hero
that
and the
are,
villain.
yeah, he is the
It,
same
it
thing.
yeah, it explains more so of the character.
Character,
It's
right?
there's more
The
character
name,
than that
the
person.
name of the movie is of the character Animal,
Yeah.
and all the characteristics match with that of Animal.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that an animal is that you have somebody who's acting in a different sense, right? For a hero, what are some of the qualities you associate with the hero usually are bravery, confidence, kind of that zeal to like do anything and destroy anyone. But with animal, it was like you have those things, but you also have this like craziness or kind
Right,
of zest for
obsession.
murder, obsession, which you
Hmm.
don't really see,
In real
in
life.
real life. But that character is unique.
Right.
You learn through the movie. You actually learn about his character. It's
And
not like you already know.
I was expecting even more than what they delivered,
Yeah.
because I actually see cinema as cinema. I see cinema as what, up till what extent can it go up to? How can it stretch its own boundaries?
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen this in the movies, because it was so much driven about father son, father son, father son. But what I saw was, uh, it got derailed from what
Mm.
I was brought to the theaters. But I think that's the work of cinema.
Yeah.
That's how things work. Sometimes you deliver, sometimes you under deliver, but you have to deliver. You have to constantly deliver. You have to keep the consistency going. So I think that's about the movies, that things. Okay, Ishan is asking that we have to maintain a certain GPA to sit in our placement. Is it same to students of US colleges?
Yeah, you can't be getting failing. You can't be failing. You can't be getting
Okay, what's the
C's.
criterion in US?
So it's all in US. It's all letter grades. So it's all A, B, C, and then anything below C is considered fail.
Okay.
C is also considered not good. So if
Hmm.
you get
I mean, a
C's,
guy getting C will not be able to sit in
a
placements.
guy getting C's won't be doing well. Most likely he'll struggle. A guy getting B's will probably do better, but not the best.
Okay.
And a guy getting A's, few B's, it'll be a little tough. Guy getting A's, it'll still be tough. Like either way, like yeah, there is a certain cutoff. Like you can't be like slacking off. You can't be getting C's.
Hmm.
You can't be just like getting all B's,
Uh-huh.
because all B's is probably like B's and C's probably like around 2.8 GPA, 3 GPA, which in some colleges might be enough. Some colleges it's definitely not enough. For some companies, it's definitely not enough. Some companies will have a cutoff of like 3.5 and above. It all depends on the company.
Company to
Yeah,
company
so some
differs.
companies will reject you, being like, okay, you don't have 3.5 and up, we won't take you. After a while, though, GPA, 2 years down the line, when you're looking for another job, GPA doesn't define you.
He's mentioning, when he's mentioning the last scene of Animal, the violent scene
Oh, when he,
with that butcher, he's killing everybody. That blood scene, bloodshed.
Gotcha.
The very last scene. So he's mentioning an incident where the cinema people, the manager of that cinema, he had to intentionally cut that scene
Really?
so that people are not able
I
to
don't think
view.
I remember that. I remember the last scene was his kid running towards him, right?
Right, and after that, it's a post-credit scene.
Oh.
where
I didn't see that.
where yeah, it's a kind of spoiler that I'm giving you, I guess.
For the next movie. Oh
Huh.
no, I saw it.
Yeah,
It's in
Animal
like
Park.
Dubai or something.
It's Animal Park. So I went to watch the movie with him. So he is mentioning that particular instant. Okay, so what all movies that you've seen? Are you fond of movies?
Yeah, I'm quite fond of
I think
movies.
that's a part we've discussed your professional thing, but I've heard, I guess it was from a founder of a firm. I guess he was saying that in your 20s, forget about work-life balance. So,
Yeah.
is there a life beyond work, or you are so workaholic that you do not understand? Okay, if there's a life beyond work.
Well, early on in my career, since I was working at Amazon, a lot of my life was dominated by work.
Hmm.
And I did learn a lot from Amazon. Like, if you join Amazon, it's a great company to work for, and you will learn a lot. And the work-life balance isn't as great. And if you even, it all depends on what the CEO says. You know, the CEO himself says he doesn't believe in work-life balance. So you should know what you're getting yourself into when you get into those type of companies and understand the culture, because those companies only want to take people who fit into that culture.
Right.
They don't want to take someone who says, "Yeah, I like work-life balance."
I'm not from hustle culture.
Yeah, that won't work, because they know these people won't like that. So you have to know that when you apply to these companies like Amazon, you have to show that, you know, I like to work. I'm willing to work extra hours to get things done. Like that, they want to see that, you know,
Hmm.
because that's the reality of how the company operates. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how it is.
Okay. So, do people, especially in the
So
IT field,
early in your 20s, I don't think work life balance
should be a thing?
should be a thing.
Should be something that is
When
concerning
you're
you.
later on in your life and you know start thinking about other things, relationships, you know, friendships, and kind of overall life,
Hmm.
then you don't want to have such complexities in your life related to work.
Are you able to manage your personal life and your professional life differently,
Yeah,
or does
it all
it
balances.
help you? No, does it often happens that it is intervening the other part, or vice versa?
Yeah, sometimes in my personal
Because
life.
that is something that's not oftenly discussed on podcasts like this. I mean, everybody who has viewed us, they can get this knowledge on internet also, on
Yeah.
Quora also, but one-to-one interaction where the person is actually telling their own experience, or especially about the personal thing, about the work-life balance. That's something that's rare.
Yeah. So work life balance, it's definitely comes in the way. Like work will definitely sometimes come in the way of your life, because you know that's just the nature of how work is. Work can be very ad hoc. Work can happen like out of random or nowhere, and sometimes it can really mess with you. Like sometimes you can just be like, oh man, I keep thinking about work. I don't think about anything else, and it happens, you know. But you have to sometimes learn when is it the right time to actually shut it down, you know. When I'm on vacation
Right.
with my family or
And still
spending
you're
good
logging
quality,
in.
and I'm still thinking, even thinking about like, oh, what about this, like, you know, project that I'm working on.
Hmm.
That's not good,
Right.
you know.
That's not at all good.
Yeah, so you have to
So,
find that balance, but it definitely does play into effect. Sometimes your personal life comes into your well, ideally, whatever, you have to keep them separate, but
mhm.
sometimes it's inevitable that it'll come. But you just have to draw the right balance between both.
Okay. So, the employees and the friends that you have, do even they manage it at some level? Or, all I'm asking is that, is it a point of concern at some point? I have to, there are two lives that I'm managing, because it's a
Yeah,
very under discussed thing. That's why I'm bringing this on table.
yeah, no, I think it it's like when work consumes too much of your life early on in your career. Like I did mention, yeah, when you're young, just work,
Hmm.
right? Because that's you have nothing else to do. But early on in your career and while you're growing, if you continue to work and overwork yourself
In your 20s.
in your 20s, then that habit's going to develop, right?
Hmm.
So as long
That's
as
going
you're
to that's going to be there in your 30s as
as
well.
long as you continue work, unless you shift your mindset and change your lifestyle, that mindset will continue in your 30s. That mindset will
Hmm.
continue in your 40s. the 20s is your time to work.
Hmm. Somebody's writing that do top companies hire front end engineer and do they ask TSA or only
Yeah,
front end
they
skills?
definitely ask. I mean, I have friends who are working in front end development, and they ask both DSA front end skills. I have friends working in app development.
Okay, so here's a quick question, and it's a very frequently asked question that I'm going to ask. What is a step by step process if I'm not from any good college and I'm not getting Google directly in my campus placement? What can be the step by step process that I can follow?
Uh, so step by step from, like as I mentioned earlier, like step by step. Okay.
Of reaching out and
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
job in
Step by
these
step first
companies.
is, project experience.
Hmm.
Find a
And guys,
project.
be the ones who have been there on a podcast. The package thing, the salary thing, maybe it's a driving force for many. They are
Maybe, yeah.
they are actually viewing us because they can ask this thing. It will be answered before this live session ends. That's for sure. I mean, I don't know whether it will be answered or answered or not, but that will be taken into consideration. But after this,
After this, yeah. After this.
he wants it to procrastinate as much as I can.
Yeah, some of these things I actually can't share. They're confidential. So if you are really interested, then you can DM me to know the exact numbers. But
And I'll reply no in DM.
yeah,
No.
but yeah, on live, it's confidential because companies.
Okay, even if you have to give a sense of what you're earning, I mean, of course, it's your choice. You want to unveil it, or you have to keep it confidential. Okay, what's a specific reason that because I've seen many interviews and many podcasts where people ask, okay, how much are you earning? How much are you earning? What is your net worth? See, as soon as we started discussing about salary, viewership also increased.
Yeah.
So people are generally more interested in knowing
And
about
knowing
net
about
worth,
salary numbers.
salary,
They're looking for the clickbait.
clickbait thing. And guys, see, and as soon as they got to know that you're not telling, it just decreased.
Yeah.
So I'm asking that why do usually people run away from telling or unveiling their financial status or net worth? What's the
Well,
basic reason behind this?
it's not that it's not running away from it. It's just, the thing is that some of these things remain confidential, and you kind of discuss these things with your recruiter and your team to figure out what is the right package for you. So obviously, like, if you are interviewing with multiple companies and some of this information about, okay, this is how much a software engineer at this company is getting offered, and that company gets to know, then there can be some conflict there and there can be some issues. You companies don't want to reveal anything to each other, especially in this whole,
It
AI
should be kept in
competition.
that
It
shell
should be
itself.
kept in the shell itself. So that's why I can't tell on air what I'm earning, and all I can say is that whatever I'm earning is good enough for me to, live a nice life in the United States.
Okay. I mean,
That's all.
still, even if you have to give a bit more, I can say, because they viewed you for so long, you can give them a brief idea that if you are, I mean, you can give them a brief idea of what a good earning is.
In the US.
Not, I mean, not in exactly in terms of rupees, or not rupees in terms of USD, but you can tell them, because I've seen in many interviews, people often, whenever you ask them the question, okay, how much do you earn, what is your net worth, they run away from this question, or they try to dodge this question.
Yeah.
So it's not specifically that other people will know, but what is the reason that people are not able to tell, not just in terms of tech field, but people don't tell? Is it the modesty?
Yeah, in general, like sometimes it's just not a great thing to share. Sometimes, it can be motivating for some people, can be demotivating for some people. You don't want to, like, overly boast sometimes,
Don't want to
Also,
boast.
people know,
You want to
like,
feel, you want to feel mediocre, is it?
no, I mean, no, I don't want to feel mediocre, but sometimes, you don't want to share some of these things because it just isn't, you know, it just doesn't feel right. So if you do want to check what I'm probably earning, you can go to levels.fyi and see what
Ah,
its salary
so you're doing
software engineer.
something that ChatGPT does. You know what?
Yeah,
If you'll
ChatGPT answer.
if you'll ask ChatGPT, I saw a meme. If you'll ask ChatGPT how to steal a car, it will say you that no, it's unethical. I can tell you. If you'll ask ChatGPT how a thief steals a car,
Yeah, exactly.
it
Yeah.
will enlist you the step algorithm how to steal a car.
Exact steps.
So that's what you're doing. You're not directly telling your income or whatever it is,
Yeah,
but you're telling them the algorithm how they can know.
how they can know. Yeah.
But I think the people, I'm sure the ones who are asking it, I don't know whether they are still retained in the podcast or not. I'm sure that they are going to watch the recorded format.
Yeah.
I hope you've got your answer. He's earning enough that he can sustain a good, maintained lifestyle in the United States.
Yeah.
So I think that answers it
Well enough.
well
Yeah,
enough.
well enough for now. Yeah.
That was a good highlight of the podcast. This very question.
Yeah. Quite a few questions were asked in the beginning
About because this is a driving force.
Yeah, this is what people are mostly
Interested in, because at the end in India, especially finance and the monetary thing, it is seen as a negative thing.
Yeah.
If you'll say that I'm working for money, you will be hated more than you will be loved.
Yeah.
You will be disliked more than you will be liked. Oh, you're only working for money. I've said this many a times. I want to say this again. There was an incident. It was on internet also, that there's a rapper called King. I discussed with you in
Yeah,
2022 also.
2022.
पैसा बहुत जरूरी है. See, this guy is writing the same thing that I was
Yeah.
about to say. So it's a sort of telepathy that happened. Anshul bhaiya just got to know मैं क्या बोलने वाला हूँ. रफ्तार भाई ने एक बात बोली थी. रफ्तार, he's a rapper.
Yeah,
Raftar.
Raftar.
He said something to King that if my mother falls sick tomorrow, I won't go to the hospital and say to the doctor that okay, I'll rap for you. You can just treat my mother.
Yeah.
He said it will require money. It will require the monetary aspect. He
Yeah.
said so. Keep your creative satisfaction and artistic liberty aside, and keep your a major part of your you can say work at maintaining a good monetary lifestyle, so that you can sustain. राज शमानी की बहुत अच्छी लाइन थी, मैं बहुत बार बोल चुका हूँ, बट अच्छा लगता है तो मैं बोलता हूँ कि um, पैसे से खुशियां नहीं आती, लेकिन पैसा हर उस चीज के लिए जरूरी है जिससे खुशियां आती हैं.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. I mean, obviously, a lot of
I mean,
people
what's
say
your
money.
personal take
A lot
on
of people say
money can't buy happiness?
A lot of people say that money can't buy happiness, but then when they say that, they don't realize that a lot of people who are saying that are usually people who have money,
who are already
Right.
rich.
But people who are saying money can buy happiness, those are people who usually
For
don't-
them, money is happiness.
Money is happiness because they need it.
They need it
So
in every aspect.
it's
especially.
all balance. Life is all balance. Figuring out how much money you need to satisfy your life. Sometimes, in the US, obviously people make a lot of money, but
Somebody's writing money can buy alcohol.
yeah, like see, the thing is, money, all of it is balance. Money can buy you a lot of things, but will your lifestyle be good? Will you be happy? Will you actually have all these things? Sometimes you can make less money, but you can still be happy.
Right.
As long as you can afford the things that you need in life, and you don't have any insane wants, then you can live a happy life.
Whenever this debate arises of this particular thing, I think there are two extremes that we have. One, there's a person who's very rich, but
And they're not happy.
Yeah, and they're not happy.
Yeah.
And it's the right extreme of money can't buy happiness. On the other extreme, there's a person who's saying no, money cannot buy happiness, and that person is not happy because he's not having money.
Yeah.
He's not able to fulfill certain resources. He's not able to allocate monetary aspect. That's very important. I would say the primary aspect. So we've got left and right, two very important aspects, extremes of this, and the debate often toggles between the two.
Yeah.
It's a circular thing.
Yeah.
So what do you have to say on these two extremes?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, everybody has their own wants, needs, what they need in life. I think Anshul said happiness and money is kind of
Mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
क्या बात है भाई, मतलब सम अप कर दिया अंशुल भाई ने
हाँ.
ये लिख के. म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव मतलब मैथ से जो रिलेट करा अंशुल भाई ने भाई, म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव सेट, म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव प्रोबेबिलिटी सेट से. इन मैथमेटिक्स देयर इज अ म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव disjoint set and everything. So that's a great correlation. You know, I think this is how you can correlate the things, but you can't make it as a whole soul thing of causation. We've often read it that there's a difference between correlation and causation.
Yeah.
I think in that way we can sum up this happiness versus money, money versus happiness, and I think that was the intent.
Yeah.
At the end, it's all about happiness.
It's all about happiness. Yeah.
Money is because of happiness. Money is because we want happiness.
Yes.
It's a stepwise process.
Yeah.
Nobody wants ki, first I want to be happy, then I
But
want to be
it's
happy.
not the only means of happiness. You know,
Mm. It
happiness
is one
comes
of the
from
means.
happiness comes from life experiences,
Hmm.
which some of them require money,
Money,
but some of them also just require being with family,
people.
spending time with people, making friends. You know,
Mm.
getting joy out of that. Sometimes eating simple food, not have to be too expensive like grand restaurants. Sometimes it's just simple food that makes you.
He's writing happiness is a decision, Gitanjali. You remember this?
Gitanjali is animal, yeah.
Ah, nice. So you just got to know he was correlating it with animal.
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene where he says this?
No, I don't remember the scene. I just remember the actress. Yeah.
I think this movie was bashed even for this dialogue also. When he was saying that happiness is a decision, Gitanjali. Oh, he's so toxic. He's trying to
Yeah.
gaslight her, and people are saying so many things to for this thing. But I think this is a kind of crash course, and you know, there are many guests who have been on our podcast. Anshul Bhaiya is one of
One of
those,
them.
and Manu was also our guest. So whenever they come, we discuss same set of things, and that's why for some people who are viewing us on a regular basis, it can be anybody. It can be somebody who is our good follower. It can be somebody who's not a follower, but uh, you know, he is just a viewer.
Yeah.
It's just a viewer,
Yeah.
and somebody is a good profound hater.
Yeah.
So it can be
all
three.
sorts of people.
Yeah,
you
all
know,
sorts of people.
can drop in for a bit. They can spam the chat.
They have to, whatever they might be
Yeah.
doing. So I think that they might be finding it a bit repetitive, but I think the reason they might be finding it repetitive is because um, as you were discussing diversity, there is a same set of question. You said something else. Anshul Bhaiya came and he said something else. Because as humans, we have got different set of experiences.
Different set of experiences, different set of opinions. On how
Opinions.
things are.
You know-
Perspectives.
Opinions come from experience. You've got
Yeah.
different experience. Because of that experience, your opinion got shaped.
Yeah.
Your experiences help in shaping your experience.
I'll have a different perspective on life than you will have.
Of course.
And Anshu will have. It's all adds up.
Yeah, it's all subjective. And I mean, this guy Anshul, he came on our podcast and he might not have had a good experience with the placement companies. So he was trying to keep it as a medium where he can expose the bad doings and the bad people and the ones who actually try to milk it in a bad way, this
Yeah.
placement season and everything. uh, but somebody else who came, he find that okay, exams are a good opportunity. He was trying to say that don't take risk, it's a good time, you can learn good things in exam, semester is good. Manu came, he find that exams are in a way redundant. I can give a good amount of time to my projects, but I have to
and
go to my
skills.
class and give attendance, present ma'am, present sir. He finds that redundant. There's the same question to all four of you, but the four of them have got different opinion on the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
they're the same set of people, as I said, sorry, different set of people. The hater and the, as I mentioned, the nonchalant people and everything. They are viewing us. So
Definitely.
everybody is acquiring different opinions from all the set of
podcast,
guests,
yeah,
and then they'll form their own opinion.
based off what they hear, and based
Yeah.
off what they live their life through and
In
perceive.
Hindi, we say na that suno sabki karo apni.
Mm.
That you have to listen from all of your ears and from everybody who's saying, but you have to choose upon a specific person,
Definitely.
right? You've seen. Are you actually into movies?
Yeah, I see quite a bit of movies. I see quite a bit of Bollywood movies, as well as Hollywood movies.
Okay.
I mentioned Fall Guy that we watched earlier, and there's some other ones that I've watched.
I don't know whether you have watched last podcast of ours with Anshul Bhaiya. I would definitely recommend you to watch. And the ones who are
You
watching
guys
us,
discussed movies, I think, right?
Ah. so you've actually seen it,
I've
yeah?
seen it,
Oh,
yeah.
that's a great thing. I
I
mean,
think you
he's
guys
come
discussed,
he's
like,
come
what
with a good
weird
preparation,
movies
good
and
homework.
stuff. A little bit. I watched what kind of questions come and all that, but nothing much.
We were actually discussing about movies,
Sure.
and we were discussing about RK Ranveer Kapoor, and
Yeah, Ranveer
we
Kapoor.
were discussing about a film of his called
The first one.
Salesman of the Year.
Oh, Rocket.
Rocket Singh.
Rocket Singh.
Okay, he's full with his homework mode.
Rocket Singh. Yeah. Rocket Singh was a good film. I
Yeah,
liked it.
it was a good film. It was actually a good film.
Yeah.
And Rocket Singh and Tamasha.
Tamasha, Rockstar.
These are the films where you can. I won't say that you can derive your morality sense, but in terms of entertainment, in terms of you are viewing it in terms of entertainment,
Yeah.
but you end up learning good things.
Definitely.
These are those kind of films.
I feel like Tamasha is like a side universe.
You've seen Tamasha?
Yeah. I feel like Tamasha, his character is like a side universe of what Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. Yeah, the ending.
Parallel universe
Yeah,
thing.
parallel universe.
We were discussing.
No, it's like if the events of Ye Jawani Hai Diwani had gone different. If he had stayed in France for if he had gone traveling and he had stayed in France for the rest of his life or moved around, that's what his life would have been.
Right.
But
I mean, that's
if he had taken that flight instead of
that
going
flight,
back, yeah, that's maybe.
And it's difficult to actually retain this thing that he's the same actor who's
Yeah.
played so many different characters. At the same time, you have to keep this thing in your mind that the same character is being obsessive over his father.
Yeah.
He also mentioned a great thing, Anshul, this guy. He mentioned a great thing that uh, Ranbir Kapoor's obsessive characters suit really nicely on him.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's being obsessive with his father. Sometimes he's being obsessive with his girlfriend, or etc. etc. So he's being obsessive with different things. But I think that's also where acting comes into play.
Yeah.
He's a good actor,
He's a good actor.
right? I was watching his podcast with Nikhil Kamath, and I would definitely recommend everybody of you who've watched our podcast, okay, so far, and the ones who've been retained on our podcast. Again, I want to thank every one of you. So I would suggest you to watch that podcast also with Nikhil Kamath. It was a great podcast, and especially for an actor like Ranbir Kapoor, who likes to be keep himself a little bit of mysterious.
Yeah, that's why these podcasts get interest.
Yeah,
Right?
of course, because somebody he said this a couple of times, that the only interaction that my fans get with me is through my
podcasts and for
films majorly. So that's why he said a major traffic comes to watch my films.
Yeah, it keeps his life interesting too.
Yeah, even when he gets award, he says, "Okay, see you at the movies."
Yeah,
because that's the only place where he's going to meet his fans. And somebody is writing RK's AIB podcast is also good. Yeah, it's really good. It's very unfiltered, and he's exposing the coffee with Karan and everything. So it's quite good, and I would suggest. I mean, in general, yeah, interviews, podcast, conversation. मतलब सार ये है ना कि आप लोगों से मिल नहीं पा रहे हो, आप लोगों को देखो, उनकी बातें सुनो. Ranveer Alabadi, he's the same guy, and he has done that podcast thing with hundreds of people. Just think of that particular person. Ranveer is like a person who has viewed all his podcasts because he's the one who's taking the podcast.
Yeah.
He's viewed all of his podcasts at least once because he's the one who's the host.
Yeah.
It's like me, I've watched all my podcasts at least once because I'm the host.
Yeah.
So just think that Ranveer, and I would say there would be at least or at most 1% in this world, or India at least, who would have watched all of his podcasts. And Ranveer is that person. So just think the amount of information and experiences that he would have gained just by having a chit chat, 2 hours, 3 hours chit chat with somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
With eminent personalities, or his editor.
Or editor, more likely editor.
More likely editor, because he has to cut out the clips and everything.
Once you're rich, you have your own editor doing all these things. Yeah. Maybe one day you will.
Definitely. I just try to I feel those things happening, and that's what we call manifesting, right?
Yeah.
You are feeling those things happening.
Yeah.
Manifesting is prakat ho rahi ho cheez.
Yeah.
It is happening right there in front of you. And if it is happening, you can think of it, I probably last year at this point I was having 400 subscribers, or I guess 401, 402.
Now 1,000.
It's more than 1,000. It's
1,000.
1,050, 55 or something. So And I remember back then I used to get bashed for, some people used to bash my content back then. A year ago, there was no such counseling admission related videos. There was no such podcast thing, and we used to make videos, and there were people who used to bash us for making podcast kind of content. I mean, they used to think that they're bashing us using this, and now we actually ended up making podcast and
Yeah.
inviting
You
special
used to
guests.
bash people on making podcasts.
People used to bash me that
Oh.
I am making the content that I'm making. It's very similar to podcast kind of content, and now I milked that podcast keyword, and I tried to match it with the authenticity of the channel. So I think that is it for our podcast today,
Okay.
and it was a great time.
Yeah.
I honestly felt that it was a very natural chit chat conversation. And honestly, while I'm sitting here, I'm sitting in front of the camera, and while giving my live session, this thing, still waiting for a cinematic video. And we are also working on that, and Anshul Bhaiya is going to be there. He's going to collaborate with us in a cinematic video very soon. ये बात हमारी हो गई अंशुल भैया की और मेरी, कि हम दोनों एक cinematic video पे work करने वाले हैं. भैया is going to collaborate with us in terms of writing or in any terms, but he's going to be there. And this guy Anshul Bhaiya, he used to be there on every podcast of ours. He used to be there in the live chat, and in every live session I used to say that he's going to be there on a podcast very soon, very soon, very soon, very soon.
Next cinematic video.
And because he couldn't come, misalignment of time and time schedules, but finally he came on a podcast, and I was very excited for the podcast.
I mean, he stayed in the podcast, this podcast
throughout. I mean, still 7 people are watching, and we've got 20 likes so far. I would suggest all the ones who are watching, still watching, please like our video and share it. Still, if you can, because as much as they can. And definitely, I want to thank you with my joined hands, and I'm just so happy right now. These 2 hours, they just, I didn't felt like, I didn't feel like as if every second was an hour or something. People feel,
We sometimes feel that it was a long session, but
No,
this one flew by. Yeah.
I think all of the sessions that I've done so far, and the people who've came on a podcast, I also want to take it as an opportunity to thank every guest who's been there on a podcast so far. Uh, Starting with Yogesh. He was not a guest, he was just a guest appearance, like as a kind of thing. He was my friend Yogesh. Then it was Akash Deep. Then it was Aviral. It was just a friendly thing. We used to sit together, as I was telling you.
Yeah.
We was just talking normally. It was nothing like related to tech. Then it was Ankit Jindal Bhaiya. Shout out to Ankit Jindal Bhaiya. Then it was Manu, the guy who came in the live chat. And then it was Anshul Bhaiya. And now it's you. Everybody, all of them are great guys यार, in person, in real life. Everybody, आप में से कोई देख रहा है, अगर आप में से कोई इनको reach out करना चाहता है, भाई बहुत बढ़िया लोग हैं यार. अगर आपको कोई भी help चाहिए, मतलब if you want to contact anything related to Android developer or anything, you can contact to Manu. मैंने मन्नू वाले podcast के नीचे मन्नू के LinkedIn का भी profile का link दे रखा है. And मैं सिर्फ ये कहने के लिए नहीं कह रहा हूँ that they've been on my podcast, but I invited them the very first time. जैसे मैंने मन्नू को बोला था, I was telling you off camera that the very first time when I asked Manu that you have to be there on a podcast, and he said, nah, I'll be there. During that time, he was working on a very important project.
Yeah.
He's still working on the same project I was discussing with you.
Yeah.
And we were having our podcast scheduled at 10, and he was in his lined up work, but he said, no, I've given you commitment, I will be there.
That's great.
I was blown away by his generosity. I said, that's not even professionally he's coming. I mean, professionally you can ignore the person, you can deny, okay, I can't come today, I've got my prior commitments
to do, I have a job to do, all these
people can say. But I think that's when the relations come. That's when the bond comes, the emotion. We were discussing na AI emotion thing. That's when the emotion
That's what
comes.
makes us human.
That's a great thing. That's what makes us human, because that humanity was there. He knew that, okay, I'm not a client. I'm not a client. I'm not a client, so I have to be there on his podcast. And he's mentioned it. He was there on a podcast, and Ankit Bhaiya was there on a podcast. It was a great podcast with all these people that I mentioned, and again with you. And genuinely, while I shoot the podcast, it doesn't feel like the time is running, or time has passed like this. I feel it just comes naturally. We didn't sit with a script or something.
No, just natural flow by flow
Unfabricated
kind of
thing.
conversations were coming, chats were coming.
Right.
We did it.
Okay. So, this is something that we ask to every guest of ours. Something that you want to say for our channel, and as a viewer and as a special guest, and now, a
Other
mutual.
than like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, of course. Apart from that, barring like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, so I mean, Aki's doing great work here. I mean, I'm not trying to trying to shame plug my cousin, but he's doing great work, and making a lot of great content. And these podcasts are also a great way. You obviously learn from me, you learn from Aki, you also learn from all these other people that he's had on his podcast, and he'll bring more people. I'm sure he already has other people lined up. Getting ready to think of.
As I said, that more people should subscribe our channel so that we can bring more such people,
more such people,
and
right?
more such podcasts,
such
more such
people.
conversations, more such experiences.
Exactly. And you
Eventually,
just keep learning, and,
Yeah.
and in a form,
it's a process of evolution. You
Yeah.
evolve.
in an era where like short-term media is very like kind of played out
Volatile.
and volatile and shown, like this type of media is
Required.
where you have these like nice long
And
conversations.
these kind of the audiences who've been there, who've retained in a podcast, I think these are the people. I mean, the actual people who are there. I mean, 6 people are actually viewing us at this
Still,
point.
yeah.
Still, it's
Yeah.
almost 12:30, and people are still viewing us. That's a huge
amazing.
number.
Yeah.
See, 6 people are actually sitting in front of you and listening a chit chat
Yeah.
at 12:30
At 12:30
a.m.
Yeah, it's just and it's beautiful,
It's very
people
beautiful.
enjoy that about interactions. So
Right.
podcasts are great, and continue. Some people have stayed here for like the whole 2 hours,
Whole 2 hours,
which is amazing.
especially the 6 of them.
The six of them, yeah. So thank you all for tuning in.
Tuning in.
Obviously, the LinkedIn he mentioned, it'll be
I'm
in
going to
the-
mention it,
in
and
the
if you want to
comments.
contact Tushar, you can contact him anytime. You can talk to him. You can ask for any guidance, any doubt. You've got him. I'll do everything, as much as I can. And at last, what message you want to give to your juniors who are watching you? Recorded format में भी लोग देख रहे होंगे इस चीज
Yeah.
को.
तो juniors के लिए तो बस keep going, keep working,
Don't stop.
don't stop, don't
stop.
give up, and don't ever like sometimes
I'm saying this to myself while I'm saying this to them.
sometimes
Don't stop.
Yeah, sometimes it'll might feel like, what, I'm not getting any responses, I'm not getting this, I'm not having this in my life. Everything will work out. Just keep working hard, keep building your skills. As I mentioned in the beginning, DSA is super critical for anything in terms of like lead code, all this stuff. Master it, become a master, and do everything you can. Just keep going.
Solve as many questions as you can.
Not just solve as many questions as you can, but really understand how to solve questions.
I mean, every question that you're solving, understand the depth and analysis behind it, and actually work on that question.
Yeah, understand those questions, try to solve those questions, and understand the algorithms behind those questions. But keep working, keep trying for interviews. It'll all happen. It is competitive, but it's not impossible.
Okay, that was a good message to your juniors, and I hope, and as a fact, I'm going to say this thing again, that this very podcast, this is going to stay on the internet forever. I say this to every guest of mine who comes on my podcast, that this podcast is going to be there on internet forever. And I said this in my last podcast also. You'll view this 10 years down the line, and you'll have a different life 10 years later.
Definitely.
But
I'll look back on it and remember recording it in this room.
And when you came to India,
Between
you came
jobs.
you came with the family members. You came in. You'll remember the day.
Definitely. Yeah.
So that's the power of internet. That's the it's like a photographic album that's going to be there forever.
Definitely. Yeah.
So it's a good sharing thing, and I think whenever we look, and anybody who's going to look even many years later, this podcast is going to be helpful and value adding in their
For a
lives.
value resource. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
So I want to thank you, Tushar.
Of course, thank you for
actually I want to thank Tushar and every special guest who's there, who's been on a podcast so far. And I just want to thank all of you for your generosity, that you guys spend your time, you actually invest your time in something you find informative, entertaining at the same time. We say infotainment,
Yeah.
information and entertainment.
Hmm.
It's a good uh, amalgamation of the two. If you find it interesting, इसको अपने बाकी दोस्तों के साथ शेयर करो भाई, अपने लिंक्डइन पे शेयर कर दो, अपने क्लास ग्रुप पे भेज दो, और जितना फैला सकते हो इस चैनल को फैला दो यार. It will help us eventually,
Yeah.
and it will help us to bring more such guests on our podcast. And uh, I think it's time to wrap this session
Yep.
up.
I think it's time to.
It's time
end
to
it.
wrap up this session, and it was a great session. I feel
Great session. Yeah.
it just felt like a flow.
Flow. It happened naturally. It's 2 hours
Streamlined.
and 15 minutes.
I just and
flew by.
that shows that how
And we talked about so many things. Like
so
we
many
talked
things,
about
movies,
career,
tech,
tech,
AI.
kind of just how to navigate.
That
through all
shows
these things.
how subjective time is.
Yeah.
We didn't feel time
We
flowing,
didn't feel time flying. No.
right? So it was a great time, and if you're viewing our channel for the first time, I'm again saying please subscribe our channel,
Like,
subscribe
share,
our channel, subscribe our channel, like this video, and share it with everybody. See, still 7 people are viewing this. I just want to thank everybody who stayed with us, who showed up, and thank you to everybody. And special thanks to Avdesh Chauhan because he gave a bit of his
Hard-earned money.
hard-earned money to us. So thank you, Avdesh, and thank you every person who stayed us on the live session. Thank you, Anshul Bhaiya, thank you, Ishan, and thank you every person. Thank you, Manu. Thank you, Nirav Rawal. Thank you, Karthik Kashyap. Everybody here. So it was a good podcast, and thank you, Tushar.
Of course,
Okay,
anytime.
and it was a great conversation. Okay, guys, chalo फिर we'll meet in another podcast with another special guest, with another set of experiences and another conversation and another set of experiences for the audience as well.
Yes.
So let's see how it turns out next time. ठीक है?
Stay tuned.
चलो यार, still 7 people are viewing us.
Yeah,
I wish
got
I
one more
could.
like,
I
one
wish
more.
I wish there was a technology. You are
You
an
can
AI
hug
engineer. You
people.
should integrate this thing in your project or something, that I can have those 7 people or 5 people on my YouTube in front of me, and I can hug them virtually.
Yeah.
I just get so emotional and overwhelming sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah,
Overwhelmed.
it's great. The support is awesome.
I'm no words.
Yeah.
That's it.
Definitely. No words.
Overwhelming. So guys, thank you, and we'll meet again with another podcast and another guest. Till then, keep supporting, keep loving us, and that's the time. Take care. Bye bye. Hmm.